items is subject to change and no action is anticipated tonight. Any of the items approved for action by the council tonight will be placed on the November 15th, 2023 City Council meeting agenda. Zoom recordings of study sessions will also be available online within a few days following the meeting. Right now, we've got all council except for council members Fry and Dennehy at the moment. All right, and we're working with a new IT setup with direct microphones, so that should hopefully eliminate for anyone viewing online anything like paper rattling, shuffling. We'll just have to watch council and presenters to press the button, count to 1 because they take a second to kick on, and then yeah, and we're not getting the feedback in the room, so you won't know if you, yeah, so exactly, that's right. So push button, take a deep breath, and then we should be good. Okay, we got Councilmember Fry just joined as well. All right, and with that, our first 2 items are both presentations, and we're going to start with. Sorry, hold on. We're going to start with Doug Washburn, director for director for the Department of Human Services, and Carl Borg, program manager for Housing and Homelessness Division from the county Kitsap. So they're here to present an update on Kitsap County's housing and homelessness program, and do the presentation, a little Q&A. So feel free to. Oh, you can grab a seat. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And let's make sure your mic's on there. And yeah, sorry, Director Riley, if you have your computer up or mic to try and share the packet, I cannot get my iPad to work.
I will start now.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, it should be right at the start there. All the slides are in it. So, but with that, welcome, gentlemen, and I'll let you take it away and start talking. And then as you do, we'll get the packet displaying for folks.
I also have extra packets printed out back there.
Oh, perfect. That's right. Okay. We have, so I think every council member has the printed out packet for now. Excellent.
On that chair back there.
Good deal.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having us, City Council. My name is Doug Washburn. I'm the director of the Kitsap County Human Services Department.
And I'm Carl Borg, Housing and Homelessness Program Manager for Kitsap County.
Thank you. So we have a brief overview of Kitsap County Housing and Homelessness Services. I will keep it to between 15 and 20 minutes as directed. So we'll go really quickly. There's way too much data, of course, to review in this amount of time, but we're happy to come back or provide you more data on any specifics that you have. Just shoot me an email and we'll get it to you within a day. So the first thing we'd like to talk about on our first page there in this first slide is the data that we get. We work together very closely with the city of Bremerton to produce data on how we come up with our plans moving forward. We have the Heading Home Plan, which is the housing and homelessness plan. We have the plan that was done in 2020 with the city of Bremerton on affordable housing and housing recommendations in Kitsap County and the city of Bremerton. And then there's ongoing studies such as the Kitsap County Healthcare System Study, which is a Johns Hopkins study currently ongoing right now. And none of this is going to surprise you. It all leads to the same thing. We need more shelter beds. We need more affordable housing. We need more mental housing within Kitsap County. The next page is the 2023 point in time count data. This is done every year nationwide, third week of January. This is how we keep track of the best that we can, how many people are experiencing homelessness within Kitsap County. It also breaks it down to people that are homeless, which doesn't necessarily mean you're living outside. You could be couch surfing versus the amount of people that are actually unsheltered outside. Last year in 2023, that was 245 people. As I've heard you mention at this council meeting before, we know that's an undercount, but it's the best that we can do. We have gotten much better with some of the steps we've taken with our outreach teams that actually go out to encampments, and some of the nonprofits we work with help us with this data. It also shows us where people were from, what created their homelessness as they self-reported, and 58% of the people last year counted were from within the city of Bremerton limits. Next page, I would just like to go. Oh, I'm sorry. Was there a question? I just wanted to go over some of the specific issues that we have been working on within the county, a lot of it with the city of Bremerton, as we work forward to try to do what we can to help people that are experiencing homelessness. Commissioners did an encampment response policy in December 2021 that allowed us to hire the HEART coordinator. He's the outreach individual that works with teams out there in the county to go out to various homeless encampments throughout Kitsap County Typically, we won't come into the city of Bremerton unless we're invited, kind of like vampires. You only go unless you're invited. So we will come. And the mayor did invite us to come in to help with the recent encampment that we had there. So we have that heart coordinator who's out there full time. He works very closely with Kitsap Community Resources outreach teams. Commissioners did fund an additional outreach team. So there are 2 outreach teams that go throughout the county, and they do go into the city of Bremerton. So you will see them around here. There's also relatively new what's the REAL, which stands for Recovery, Empowerment, Advocacy, and Linkage. That's through the Salish Behavioral Health Organization, which is also in our department. That's Kitsap, Jefferson, and Clallam counties, but they've been out there for quite a while, and they've actually, within Kitsap County, in the last year, 700 people that they did work with. And this is something that if you see someone that's experiencing a serious behavioral health issue in Safeway, for example, typically the store manager would call the police, Bremerton police would show up and do what they could do. Now they can actually call that store manager can call that the real team person individually. They don't have to go through the police. So the police don't have to, it's not an interim step. It doesn't take up the police time. They can go there and then work with them on their mental health crisis. That's been very effective. We also have 2 new teams now from Kitsap Recovery Center. And the detox and inpatient outreach also works with all these teams that we've just mentioned. They go out there with people and they can offer detox services or an inpatient bed right away if people are willing to go. So several people that were down on MLK during the last couple of months since we've all been working together on this have taken them up on that. So that's been working really well. Also, to talk about some of the rental assistance, Salish also has increased their rental assistance from $500,000 a year to $1.2 million a year in 2023. This allows people for down payment assistance and that sort of thing for people that are experiencing behavioral health issues, are in danger of being institutionalized or exiting an institution. We've increased the shelter beds, as you know about, and we hope to continue to do that as we move forward. It was a little bit easier with COVID funding because we had an influx of funding, as you're also very aware, from 2020 on. And in 2025, we've switched over from FEMA funding to America Recovery Plan funding, but that funding will go away for all of us in 2025. So that's why we'll need to work with the legislature to say, here's what that was covering. Please help us continue that. We've increased the hotel voucher program, mainly through Kitsap Community Resources, but there's also a few other sources out there for $2 million. That helps people get into a hotel, get connected with services, hopefully to get them into more permanent, more appropriate housing as they move forward. All of these services, the goal is to get people connected to mental health services, chemical dependency services, jobs, whatever they may need. If they're a veteran, we've also come across people that were veterans that had no idea that they were eligible for several services out there. We can usually get veterans into some sort of housing right away within a day or so, if they're willing to step forward. And it's just a lack of understanding. Some veterans said, well, I didn't retire from the military. I served, 3 or 4 years, but I'm not a veteran. No, you're a veteran if you served in the military at all. The Mile Hill, as you know, the temporary housing unit we've been working on will have 75 beds that should be open next fall. It's a place for individuals, families, pets. There will be medical services, behavioral health services, job services out there too. We've seen that be successful in several places. Permanent supported housing, that would be like Pendleton Place, which we could certainly use more of those. We know that 72 units filled up immediately. And there is some churn there where people do move on to other places that they'd rather be. That's more appropriate for what they're doing as they enter treatment and start doing better. We'd like more of that. Job placement and development, we also work with people on that. The biggest goal is if they don't need government services at all anymore and just move forward and be as self-sufficient as possible. Veteran Park Restoration, that was one of our biggest homeless camps within the county in unincorporated Kitsap County, where we worked with Northwest Hospitality and several not-for-profit organizations, Rock the Block, all the ones that you know about and have heard about. And there was actually 27,000 pounds of trash that was removed from that area in Veterans Park. We also work on responding to the homeless crisis, preventing homelessness services, preventing homelessness services. That was a huge mistake. No, preventing homelessness is what we would like to do on that. Part of that is the eviction prevention funding that we got. COVID really helped with that. The ARPA funding, American Rescue Plan funding, I'll try not to use acronyms, is also going to help us with that. If we go to the next page, This is just a brief of eviction prevention funding within Kitsap County. This includes the city of Bremerton gets this funding. People in Bremerton gets this too. This date ranges from September 1st, 2020 through February 28th, 2023. $31.2 million of rental assistance was paid directly to landlords, and for 3,800, almost 4,000 of our most vulnerable low-income households. And when we talk about low income, 70% of those households served had incomes less than 30% of the median area income. So these are families that are very poor, just barely holding on. And we want to make sure that we can do what we can. Also, we worked with the buy and pour organizations that you're also very aware of to make sure that we were hitting our targets, to make sure that typically historically underserved populations were getting that service they need. The buy and pour organizations, we owe that to them for reaching out and reaching those groups. The next page, it starts with investments in public funding. This is what we have. So we do an annual report. Our funding is just like the city's funding. We get it from different areas. The county government is on a county calendar year. So it's, January 1st through December 31st. The federal government is on a federal fiscal year, so it ends in October. The state is on a state fiscal year, so that ends in June 30th, July 1 through June 30th. So that's why it takes a little bit of time to get this out and get this coordinated. But for the Affordable Housing Grant Program, we'll go into a little bit of what this funded. That was $320,000 in 21 and 22. It's going up to $498,000 in 2023. Homeless Housing Grant Program, $1.19 million, going up to $1.785 million for that program in 2023. And the Consolidated Homeless Grant Program at $2.2 million, going up to $2.9 million in 2023. Also, COVID funding, we still had that left. And in 2022, we did have $24.3 million of COVID funding go out within Kitsap County. These next ones, we tie up the plan that we have. And again, any of these things you want follow up on, I can send you the data on this or give you a deeper dive. You can meet with us individually, or we can come back to another work study, whatever you're interested in. Is we have the goal within our plans to make homelessness rare, make homelessness brief, and within Kitsap County, and make homelessness one time. This is how we invest the money in each of the areas with our not-for-profit agencies. We can't do anything. Government can't solve this on our own. We're better off actually listening to the voices of the community and the not-for-profits, and even some of the for-profits that we work with out there. They are boots on the ground. They have a much better feel for what's going on out there, and we trust them implicitly. We contract with about 50 nonprofits within Kitsap County each year, and we have about 500 contracts with those nonprofits just within Kitsap County moving forward. I also wanted to move forward now to this page, which says draft on it. It's I don't know who's working the slides. The draft 2024 action plan. This is a good example right there. Yeah, this is an excellent example of how closely we work with the city of Bremerton and your staff as we move forward. We have the Community Development Block Grant Program, just as the city of Bremerton has their Community Development Block Grant Program, your own funding for that. But our block grant and housing homelessness people work very closely with Sarah Lineman, your person who you know very well, to make sure. The reason for that is that the mayor, city council, and county commissioners have instructed us, work together, make sure you're coordinating your resources. So it's like, oh, we're sure Bremerton's probably doing that. And then we find out Bremerton wasn't doing that, or vice versa. Oh, the county must be handling that. So we just finished that process this month, in October. We're in November already. And this next slide is just an example of how funding is done. Different funding sources can pay for different things. So we want to, when agencies come forward with the request for funding, whether it's capital funding or services funding, we say, okay, here's what here's what that we can pay for with different grant sources. This way, agencies don't have to fill out 5, 6, 7 different grants for this. So it's the city of Bremerton or Kitsap County, they can do one and we work together. And this just shows what just the commissioners approved last month in October, that $7.25 million in affordable housing. This is for the recommendation for capital grants within the city of Bremerton and Kitsap County, and shows you the different agencies we're working with. The next page, which is the Service Grant Recommendation Committee funding, that's for our homeless grant programs and the housing homeless grant programs that we have out there. And that was an additional $1.1 million went out. And you can see the different housing Max Hale, Sisyphus House, Agape, Catholic Community Services, Housing Kitsap, Kitsap Community Resources, Kitsap Mental Health, North Kitsap Food Line, Olive Crest, Coffee Oasis, Salvation Army. You can see all of all the agencies that we work with for that. Part of this funding as well. Oh, okay. Wow. Holy cow, those are way nicer than mine. Oh my gosh. So that's what that does. And then the final slide, the little short one here, that's another part of the funding. It's the shelter operations funding that we do for the request for proposals. And that pays for Catholic Community Services, St. Vincent de Paul, Kitsap Community Resources, Coffee Oasis, Weaver Foundation, YWCA, and that put out an additional $612,000 within the community. Those are the programs that we wanted to highlight with you and just let you know how important it is, how much we appreciate your partnership and your guidance. I've seen a few of you out there when we did, like Mills Crossing, for example, the opening of Mills Crossing. I saw several of you out there when we were working on that together. That's one thing that we work together. We're funding Salvation Army to be open. And we do what we can to make sure that we're all communicating with each other. And the rest of you I've seen on TV, I've watched many, many of your meetings recently. So as I ate before I came. Just because of that.
I don't think this will be a 5-hour meeting.
Okay, so so I'm at 16 minutes. Carl, did you have anything that you would like to add? And so I'm really happy to take any questions. And again, you have my contact information. I'm very easy to get a hold of. Just call. I will get back to you within the day.
Excellent. No, let me just say thank you so much for both of you for being here and giving us this excellently compiled information. And I really appreciate the offer if any of us want to deep dive into any of it to follow up with you. So that is fantastic. Yeah, I'm sure this is, like I said, tons to learn. So
the luster dims a bit, I can tell you that. So.
But no, I think one reason we're so appreciative of having you here is we tackle what's going on in the city, being aware of the county and that partnership and knowing there's coordination there. And having this holistic view of what's all going on is fantastic. So this is great.
And as we complete other plans, we'll make sure that we always send it to the city council and the mayor and his staff to make sure that we all have the same plans and we're working from the same page.
Perfect. So with that, any just maybe take 5-10 minutes max for questions, any kind of burning on this or yeah.
Quick clarifying question. So you used a term I hadn't heard. I think you said like buy and pour. Can you tell me what that was that you said? Do you remember what you said?
It's Hope 360 is an example of that.
Did I say it right? Buy and pour?
Yeah, buy and pour organizations. And that's
POUR.
No, BY and FOR.
Oh, buy and pour.
Yeah.
Ah, okay, there we go.
There used to be a clothing brand.
BY.
But it's working with Kitsap Immigration Assistance Program so that we're sure that it's getting out to people, non-English speaking individuals. It's Hope 360, Straighten Jackson's program. Your next presenter is one of the agencies that we work closely with. It's just getting out there with those. It's Marwan, who I know you know Marwan very well too. And they've been great. And they're by and for too. They really expanded because Marwan, they're the ones when we had that awful storm last year that provided transportation to the homeless shelters when we weren't able to open most of the shelters. So we had the pavilion open. Couldn't do it without them.
That's.
I'm just wondering about legislative priorities, any gaps. This is a lot. This is a real wonderful, rich data dump. Mm-hmm. And really, it's great info in great context. Again, I wish we had hours, to talk about all this with you. Mm-hmm. We don't. From just so we're on this all the same page, if you had to say from the county's perspective, 30,000 foot view compared to ours, top priority as far as all of the homeless mm-hmm. continuum of services from your perspective. I know that's a huge question to ask in a really short period of time, but I'm going to do it anyway.
No, that's a reasonable question. We have to we look at it from a continuum because the very best thing we can do, it's like when we're talking about chemical dependency or substance abuse, prevent that from happening in the first place. That's why we invest a lot of money in schools, is preventing people from becoming homeless in the first place. That's why the Housing Solutions Center, we have reports from them. I think it's 30% of the people are homeless when they come to them. The others aren't yet homeless. So that's it. Anything we can do up front. But we also need more shelters, whether it's pallet shelters or sprung structures. We need more affordable housing. It'd be nice if we could have funding to purchase a hotel, because we're leasing the hotel, like the Quality Inn, we lease that, and that's very expensive. You know, it's going to wind up, well, after security and everything else, that's going to be almost $2 million a year for the 75 people to be there. So it's along the continuum. One thing this year, the county commissioners our lobbyist is working with the city of Bremerton and their lobbyists to come up with asks for the legislature. Because I'm a staff, I can't lobby at all, but we can provide data. That's what we can do. So it's hard. So it's prevention, shelter, and affordable housing for people in apartments.
And who sets the legislative priorities for the county? Is that the commissioners?
Yes, it is. It's
Okay.
certainly not I.
Okay.
Yeah, and we bring it, and we work really closely. Like there's an Washington Association of Cities, there's a Washington Association of
Sure.
Counties, and we set the priorities based. We try to work together because, especially related to homelessness, we're more like than all the other counties than we are different. So usually we'll work with them to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Yeah, like I know AWCs are already out, I believe. Yeah. Huh? Yep, she's good. Yeah. Mhm.
So thank you very much, Mr. Washburn, Mr. Borg, for coming around here. One of the things I wanted to ask about is, like, I'm looking here at the services grant recommendations, and these seem to be for maintenance and operations, just day-to-day running of things. Is that correct?
Some of it's for maintenance, for day-to-day.
So I'm looking at the extreme disjunct in amount of money. Like, there's a ton of money for capital. There's very little money for day-to-day operations. That seems to be how most grants work. Is that something that you would find common, like, down the line?
It's actually had a little bit of a shift. It used to be easier for us to get funding for services from Department of Commerce because it was housing and homelessness services. Capital funding used to be more difficult to get. That changed during COVID. The reason there's so much more money in the capital portion of this is that the commissioners just passed that 0.1% in 2022. So that comes in at 0.1%, which works out to about $5 million a year. Most of that is intended for capital projects. We can use a portion of that for services, which we do, but most of that's intended to hit affordable housing. That's like the Mills Crossing project or some of those other projects to have apartments, anything we can do. And the missing middle is a huge priority too, because there's people that if they're making $50,000 a year, but if you have a family of 4 or 5, it's still difficult to make it 5.
Yeah,
So that's why it just depends on the grant sources, and we've got additional grant sources recently.
Yeah,
And we don't want to make the mistake, because I was a director before too, where it's like, oh great, we got funding for we got $10 million for a new complex of 50 apartments, but we have no ongoing funding, like Pendleton Place. Where would that be if they didn't have that ongoing service funding? So both are important. That's it.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I was just checking. And then my second and final question is about the AMI, because of course 60% of AMI is in where our AMI is 102.5. So that's about 60K. 40% of Bremerton households, I keep saying this, make less than 40K. So I was wondering if there's any work being done at the county commissioner level to institute 30% AMI or ELI, whichever you want to call it.
Most of our targets are 60% or 80%, depending on the federal or state funding source. We do reach out and try to do a needs assessment. Well, we do reach out and do a needs assessment and vulnerability assessment. So if you is like the data that I had earlier from the point in time count, and or not the point in time count, I'm sorry, from the eviction prevention services, I forget how many percent of those people, 70% of those households assisted were at 30% or below. But there hasn't been anything set. That's our goals, that's our priority, but we haven't set that for the new housing tax yet.
Okay. My other 72 questions, I'll email you.
And again, feel free to call too. I'm
Okay.
easy to get a hold of.
Okay. Thank you.
Unless Eric or Michael have any, just had a quick. I think what's so fantastic is seeing too the actual table compiling all the different types of shelter space and how many beds. And I noticed it's for 2021. Is there an update to expect on the way, or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
our update for Department of Commerce, and that's actually because of the way the fiscal years run, that's
Mhm.
2021 and a big chunk of 2022.
Oh, okay.
So our other one is due this month, I think by October 15th,
Yeah.
our next
Oh, perfect.
annual
Okay.
report will be due, and we'll share that immediately with you.
Okay, excellent. Because I know that's something we'll be kind of looking at soon. So well, that's fantastic. My last question was just thinking, seeing the really awesome close collaboration on rental assistance and CDBG funding. Maybe this may not be possible, but is there any talk of combining this counties and cities programs, or is it a federal requirement that cities run their own CDBG and rental assistance? And I'm just thinking for minimizing overhead and
There's not a requirement that cities run their own, but usually cities the size of Bremerton tend to run their own. Because like City of Port Orchard does not, well, they don't meet the population standards either. So
okay.
we do work with cities. If they wanted to, we probably could work together to pull out. But as far as combining, it's with the size of the city of Bremerton, that would be up to the city council. Maybe commissioners could certainly discuss that.
Just curious. Fantastic. All right. I think with that, just thank you both so much again. And this is so valuable. So I just appreciate you taking the time
Thank
to come
you.
out here.
And I'm on the fourth floor if you need it.
Ah, perfect. Oh, good.
I'm so
come knock on your door. Yeah.
so glad we were here on new microphone night. That's
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Take a pause. Is that your hearing or someone or?
No, it's difficult for me
Mm. Well, what's fantastic is yes. So we announced the next item because we have Diana Sullivan, Director of Operations for the Foundation for Homelessness and Poverty Management on item A2. And along with a couple other people, including Drayton Jackson and Mr. Jackson, I'm going to promote you to a panelist on Zoom so you can join. And I'm going to ask Mr. Jackson how the audio's been when he gets in. Oh, and we have Councilmember Denny. He joined as well online. So
The audio's doing great, guys.
is it excellent? All right.
Yep. Hearing it loud and clear.
Good to hear. All right. Perfect. So sounds good. And Diana, I have already forgotten names. I'm so sorry if you want to introduce. Yeah.
The Director of Operations for the Foundation for Homeless and Poverty Management. And I'll let
Okay. My name is Nicole Liu. I'm the project architect with SKL Architects on the Rejuvenation Day Center.
And I'm Neil Galden with Galden Management Group. I'm the owner's representative for the foundation.
Yeah, so again, thanks again for also coming out. I'm actually glad it just happened to work out to get both of you all, both groups here tonight, because obviously close work together on the same topic. So with that, Mike, do you mind sharing one more time? And it's I don't want to say prettier slides, but they are very pretty slides. So,
Good. We're glad you think so.
so we'll get those up. But if you want to take it away and
so well, I think Drayton Jackson is going to be.
oh, and yeah, let's see.
And then we'll move on to it.
Oh, sorry, it did not bump him to. Let me check. I do not see Drayton on at the moment. Wait, no, there we go. I think a different login. All right, I'm gonna try if you can hear me. Drayton, you should be panelist now. There we go.
Yeah, we did the Star Trek thing, the Zoom.
There we go. All right, we beamed you in. Good.
The sound is good.
Excellent.
So one, I want to get, I apologize for not being there. But the school board was still here at our board retreat. So, but they were so generous to say, all right, go do what you got to do. But I want to say thank you to all of the council members for just allowing us to have this time. It's been a long time waiting. We purposely held off because we wanted to make sure that everything was in place. Just to go quickly, that my experience with homelessness has been over 2 decades, from New York City and then in Kitsap County and then in Washington State as well. One of the things that I did along that journey was constantly say how to make this better. How could I have done better for this? And instead of sitting back and looking at problems, one of the things that I looked at was what worked. One of the things that saved my family's life of getting us off the street was being a part of Sally's camp. And knowing that we were sleeping in a tent, but inside of a building that was safe was something that was critical to me and my family. But it was also critical to me on how do I solve the problem? And getting a team together and making sure that we understood what the problem was. So in 2017, the foundation went out on a request of fact-finding information in Seattle and also starting in Kitsap. We didn't have as much homeless in Kitsap at the time. And what we found over those 3 years was that housing was not the number one thing for the people in encampments and just on the streets. It was a place to go that I could get back. All of our data showed that everybody just wanted a place to think, a place to shower, a place to get normalcy. And that shocked us when we thought about that. We was like, wow, housing was not it. And that goes to speak to a lot of what Doug Washburn was just talking about. There's a process to people coming out of homelessness. Myself, it took me almost a year to get furniture because I was still in trauma mode. So with that being said, we sought after and said, how can we help and how can we do really good in giving the community of unhoused people what they wanted? Our libraries throughout the state has done a great job of doing that, especially in Kitsap County. Downtown libraries were used as places that people knew that they were safe, but they can rest. And I think what everybody wanted was a place that, oh, let me just go and get some normalcy and figure it out. My dream and my desire, and the team is going to explain to it, is to be watching a Monday night game with the Seahawks and the Cowboys, hopefully, and watching that game and having the unhoused community and homeless community watch that game and be able to go the next day and be part of society and know what was going on. To sit there and say that I saw that game instead of society walking through and talking about something that they're not even a part of. So when we got this building, it was something that we knew we had to focus on what that community needed. We were doing hard work and we were putting structures together to make sure that we fulfilled all of the gaps. So today the team will present to you our building and we will present to you the little bit of the mission of what we've done and then take any questions that you all may have. So I'll pass that over to Neil and Neil can just go into everything that has to do with presenting this building, the Rejuvenation Day Center, to you.
Yeah, thanks, Drayton. Appreciate you starting off, kicking us off and introducing and saying a little. It's been a pleasure to be a part of this program and a part of this project and doing the service and doing the work and working to make a difference. And so that's what's important. And so when Drayton and Diana came to me and talked to me about this idea, it was a no-brainer to sit down with them and take this idea and turn it into something, turn it into fruition. And my previous work with SKL, I knew that they were the right architect team to pull together and make this work. And so I'm going to let Nicole go further into our building. What you see right here, this building right now, as you see it, is in permitting right now, and we're in process. We've been in permitting for 6 months.
We submitted our initial permit application in December of last year.
So we're processing through it. It's taking some time, but it's all right. We still got work to do, so we'll keep pressing forward. And once we clear permitting, we'll be ready to turn it into what you see here. So, Nicole.
All right. Yay. So we're really excited to present you. I'm part of a team. We work on community-based projects, so schools, communities, affordable housing. And we've been working together on this project since January of 2021. And so there's so much that's gone into this design, and we just have, just a few minutes to go through it. The overall scope of the project is a renovation of the existing 9,500 square foot two-story building on the site, as well as a 1,500 square foot addition for a total of 11,000 square feet as the Rejuvenation Day Center. And we were really inspired by Drayton's story and also the mission of the foundation of treating the whole person. So what that means in terms of the architecture is creating a space that's inspiring, that's healing, and one that feels welcome to everyone who comes there. So here we're seeing the upper level of the building. And on this level, we have offices with services and counseling. There's also in the yellow, we have some spaces for incubator spaces for like-minded businesses or organizations. And then in the pink, there's also some childcare. So if someone is coming and they need some temporary childcare while they get some services there, they can do that as well. Kind of similar to like a Fred Meyer concept of like the kid space in the entry. And then we also, before we move on, so, thinking about the whole person and someone coming to a new site, we want them to feel welcoming. And so we have this large space that's the common area where people can come in. There, we have new skylights that are bringing light into this space, and someone can feel like they're not trapped in a box, but they can understand the whole space and what services are there. We'll also have a nice long bar that has hot drinks, so someone could take a warm drink and wait for a service provider. And then now we can go to the next slide. And then the downstairs is more of a wellness floor. So we have TV and computer facilities. There's in green. And then there's a reading room, or as Drayden calls it, it's the Breathe Easy room, which is just a place to like come and relax, or just be yourself and do whatever you need. So I think we all need Breathe Easy rooms, everyone. And then Drayden, I think, shared with us early on that one of the barriers to keeping a job is not having a place to have shower facilities or a place to clean your clothes. And so this has shower rooms and laundry facilities, so that someone can come and do just that without any judgment. There's also a small first aid medical room and a barber area, so someone can get a haircut and also possibly have some trainings in that. And then this level is the garden level. So you can walk directly out into this beautiful lush garden that we've designed. Next slide. Wait for the garden. We can go back up to the garden. Either. Oh wait, it is down below too. So we'll scroll on down. Let's see. Yeah. So here we're coming off of Wheaton, and so you can see this is the entry into the upper level. You can also go down the steps to the lower level, and beyond that is the garden. There's also an elevator within the building should you need to get there. And you can see we have a lot of new landscaping and large new windows that can open. So there's this connection to the outdoors. I think we can go on to the next slide. We'll have wayfinding so that people can find their way easily. And this is the view from 303. And you can see at the surrounding the building is that wellness garden. And from here, you can see that there are these planters for some agriculture and planting vegetables. We really, there's so many benefits to community gardening in terms of overall wellness, mental health, having access to fresh produce. And so that was an important part of this wellness garden as well. Next slide. And this is an overview of the whole site. Maybe we should have started with this slide. So at the bottom is Wheaton Way, and you'll see there for staff. Most people will be coming by public transit or on foot. And so there's a gatehouse with safety advocates, and then there's lockers so that people can leave their bikes or carts and feel that they're leaving their belongings in a secure place before they can enter into the building. And then the whole rest of the site, and you see just enveloping the building, is this sort of wellness sanctuary garden. And we really wanted this to be a lush, wonderful space, a retreat for people. And there are places to gather, but also there are more reflective, quiet spaces for people who want to be more solitary. But really, also on the inside, making those connections to this outdoor space as such an amenity that is for the people, is also open to the And I guess that's, did I cover enough in those few minutes? I think one other thing I want to mention is that there are a whole slew of green features that we do want to include pending funding. So on the rooftop, there's a solar PV array to generate energy on site. We're collecting rooftop rainwater to go into the garden. Our firm really strongly believes in selecting only non-toxic materials throughout the building to support a healthy environment indoors and outdoors. And then also just reusing the building is in itself a very sustainable measure, because all of that embodied carbon that goes into building that structure and all the materials that go into it, keeping that portion and then reusing it and renovating it is another way of being very sustainable and financially conscious. So I think that with that I am done with my portion, and I just want to say that the building's ultimate goal is really to support the wonderful work that the foundation is doing. The architecture just really wants to facilitate that and support that as much as we can. So that was our aim, and I'm passing it back to you, Neil.
Perfect. Thank you, Nicole. I have it right here because I can't see that far. There was another beautiful slide on there too that showed kind of a nighttime, and we don't have to go back to it. I know the time is low, but it showed kind of a nighttime dimming, so you can show the idea of the lighting features and things that surround the building, because it's all encompassing of that wellness and what we're trying to ascertain here. And one thing that Nicole pointed out again is that on purpose, this is called the Rejuvenation Community Day Center. Our focus in our programs is to really invite the community to be a part of this. It's not a place where we bring homeless folks in, and this is community and community involvement, because we want folks to feel like a part of something and a part of that community. And so in our programs and what we're doing with the gardening and the kitchen and the cooking and the beauty shop and the barber shop, all those things is community involvement and the wellness garden. And so we want folks to just intermingle and enjoy each other and be a part of the community, so that we can help them get back to normalcy and move away from homelessness into permanent housing, start to help curb this pandemic. That's the picture I was talking about. Thank you.
Yeah. If you can just leave it here for it. What I want to make sure is that Diana, we've been in this building, and I want Diana just to give you we've done our work. We didn't want to come in and say, let's open the building, let's get to right to work. We know that this is a hard task. We know that our community partners have had a hard task doing it. So I wanted Diana just to give you some numbers of what we've been doing in that building and who we've been servicing to do what we would call the industry a soft opening. So we've had a year-long soft opening to really do and get the data back and assess the data on how we can improve in certain areas. So
Diana, before you go into there, I just wanted to point out, because the City Council has this presentation, and then this presentation, you'll see one other slide on there which has numbers. You don't need to go to that right now if you don't want to. It's in your presentation. Understand, I want you guys to understand that the way we broke that up is so that you can see what our range of magnitude was for this construction project, what we've received so far, and what's still needed to complete the building to where you see it now. That's broken up into 3 columns and into 3 rows of sections that kind of identifies an overview of what that funding needed looks like. So that's the explanation of that slide. Thank you.
Oh, thank you all so much. It seems like such an exciting project. Diana.
So I just wanted to kind of expand on what Drayton was saying. It's like, when we started this, literally like as soon as we decided we wanted to help, but we wanted to see, how we can help. And one of the things that we did during COVID is we did work with KCR and the county to distribute to help with rental assistance, as Doug mentioned. And we were able to distribute $300,000 in rental assistance, which affected 52 households. Thank you. to prevent them from being homeless. And this was in conjunction with the county, and we worked really close with Doug and Kirsten before she left. In 2022, we were able to help 10 families get into hotels, which was really out of our pockets until they were able to get, KCR was able to kick in with their funding for hotels. BHA was allowed us to get 4 emergency vouchers, which we immediately were able to put families in. We actually got 7 families into permanent housings with local landlords. We did over like 100 referrals to other local organizations such as KCR, Salvation Army, and this is all, this is all a community thing. We got transportation, 50 bus tokens for people. And one of the biggest things is we did 150 plus snack bags for people who are experiencing homelessness. And I will share with you that we had like the lady who was homeless, who was able to see her child, and were able to take the snack bags with her so that her child was not hungry while they were visiting. And we did 75 unduplicated households in this Washington State homeless management system. But this year, we expanded our partnerships even more. We worked with DHSH to be in our building one day a week, that's what I'm trying to say, to help people with their certification and recertification with like their SNAP, TANF, help them with applying with HIN, their ABD assistance, which led into the SSID. And I have to say that we had like a partnership with KISEP Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, who has been, thank you, that have been so supportive. They helped out. It's like, they came over there, what did we need? And it was a big lift on their end, which made it much easier for us to be able to give clothes to people who, because we had a lot of rain, people were out there getting wet, and we were able to get them into changing of clothes and things like that. We also partner with the Transform and Rejuvenate Barber Academy. They're in our building, where they have students who are actually learning the art of barbering while we have our clients being able to get haircuts and get groomed so that they can go out into work. We have our life skills program with a gentleman who's running our substance disorder program, and what we do is we teach people how to get out of homelessness, but to prepare to live outside of homelessness, because, when they started in, their mindset was not in homelessness and they got used to it. So we have to reverse engineer that. And that's one of the things that we're doing, is to get them to live outside of homelessness. So as I said, we've been over here, we've been around, we've been doing the work, we've been working with like our partners. And this is just something that is needed for those, because we have so many people who are working homeless. They just need to have a place to be able to take showers, and just a place to be. And yeah, that concludes our presentation. I hope that was 15 minutes. I know we.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, thank you, Diana. And one of the things, let me just say this, is that we're here to do the work. The majority of the board, we've kept our board hidden because of just making sure that people understood. It's not very rare that you get a board with people with lived experience, and our board is expanding. January, our old board a lot of them are leaving off because they've gotten better in life, and now we have a whole new board that's coming on in January that's going to lead this work for going forward. And just to let you know that we're here to help. We're not here to compete. We're not here to say, hey, we could do it better. We're here to help and do it. Our lived experience in doing this work makes us approach it totally differently than everybody else. We're an exclusive. We want people to stay, and we get to the root of anybody's problems that they have. We have a security team that is built in the house. That security team is based off of de-escalation and verbal judo. So what that means is that they're not there to protect the homeless. They're there to protect the homeless from outside. And our goal is to make sure that anybody that's in our building belongs there and wants to be there. But not only that, that they feel that this is their building. So with that, we thank you for, once again, for allowing us to just present it to you and see what it is, and then we're willing to ask any question. And just to let you know, our security guard team is on the other side. So if it's a security question, he needs to come over the panel, just to let you know. And Mr. Brown from our substance abuse counselor. So just to let you know, those two, if you have questions on substance abuse and security, they need to just come over and answer.
Excellent. Don, well, thank you all so much for all the work you do and for giving us a heads up on what's coming here. And it seems like it'll be vitally needed in the community in Bremerton. So council, any questions on what's upcoming? Yeah, go ahead.
Councilmember Younger and I came over and toured the facility. I was really impressed, and with the intent and the mission. And I even said a couple of times, thought the location was great, My big challenge in Rapid, I want to clarify, is it connected to any kind of shelter services? I asked you about this on the tour just because that's the field I come from. And I know the funding out there and I know what it's linked to. And it's linked to shelter. So is there I just want clarification.
Right.
And I think there might be even talk of transportation or whatever, but just want to clarify that with you, that we're not talking about shelter services necessarily right now.
Right.
You're providing the support services.
Correct.
Yeah, I worked very, very close with Department of Commerce. We were one of the first organizations that fought their definition of what a day center was. In our state, there was a gray area. When we got into this work, we made sure that we stepped up and said, well, that's not what HUD says, that's not what federal says. And these were dollars that were coming from the federal side of it. So when we had to go back in with Commerce, this is when Lisa Brown was there, we made it very plain. We needed spelled out, what does a day center mean to you for the funding mechanism? We have that now. So we don't have to just have the shelter. Now, we do want to be able to be flexible in what we do in that service. And Salvation Army will tell you best. If we need to, we can, right? And we've made that in our design that if we needed to support the city with overnight winter shelter, there's ways that we can do that in the design that we have, and we know how to do it. And I'll say it that way. My experience and our other staff's experience with being in indoor encampments, we know how to make that a place that will be able to do that. So, but we don't want to neglect what the county is already doing. So we've already had conversations with Lisa Ray. I think Diana, if I'm saying her name right.
Judy Ray.
Judy Ray, sorry. And that's our goal. Our goal is to support the city and to support the county in what they're doing and be that stopgap. So when the shelter is closed or they need to get people out, we want to be to receive them and work with our local communities like G2 to transport them and being able to have those connections as people that's already doing it. Do we want to get in the shelter business? Of course. We're working with other counties now that's bringing us over to take over buildings. But we have a structure and we have a policy and we have a way of doing things that it has to fit our way. And the reason why is because we know how to do it. So we are one of the biggest, from what I understand right now, day centers that will be in our state. And on both floors of being over 10,000 square feet after construction is done. So to answer your question, we're sticking to what we know, but we want to partner with the city and the county in what they're doing as far as overnight shelters and help them to be a stopgap to get people up the street in between.
And I just love all the collaboration. That is so fantastic to hear. Any other quick questions, Anna? I call on you, you just go.
Sir. Hey, so Councillor Chamberlain and I also had the opportunity to tour. And I loved the way you can visualize each one of those rooms as you're walking through it. That was pretty impressive.
Thank you.
I'm just because our current comp plan and our draft comp plan are very strong on the necessity for native trees. I was very sorry to see that you're going to cut down those mature Douglas firs in the south corner there. Those are irreplaceable. They don't require irrigation. And as a sort of ancillary thing, the vegetation that I was seeing there does require irrigation. And if it's expensive, just the final thing I wanted to say is that raised beds for vegetables that are adjacent to a 4-lane highway will have a soil that is highly contaminated with exhaust fumes. So that might not be the knitting into the community that you might want. I really like this. I don't have 72 questions this time, but I do have 51, and I will email them to you.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Yeah.
Yes, hello. I came, I visited, I stole half their candy, but I brought a few cookies. But I was feeling snacky. I had some, it's, that it looks, I mean, and already when I walked in the door, I felt like I was home because I felt like I could dip into your candy dish. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So thank you for the work you're doing for that. I guess I wasn't really clear, Mr. Jackson. Actually, Diana, if I could ask you, the intent is not to be a shelter. The intent is to be a day center. However, there is the option to be flexible in the purpose of the building. Am I understanding that correctly?
There's the option to be flexible we were talking about for winter service here in Bremerton, because we know that it does become needed. And there's the option that we could open up the lower level for a temporary shelter.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if a need arises, if there's a contract that can be made, if all things.
Yeah. And if you look at how our rooms are designed, that's the way we had asked architects to do that. So this way, if we needed to put fold out beds in those spaces, it can accommodate them. And then we can remember, everything is about the system. The way it's set up, we'll be able to run a good system where everybody would have their own space and everybody would be spaced out enough that they feel comfortable and not overcrowded on it. And that just came from what I went through at Sally's camp. And what I went through at Mary's house in Seattle is how to utilize office spaces.
Yeah.
And
So if you look at the lower level, even though that's that's the new design and everything, with the rooms and with the rooms in the lower level, the plan was to be able to have families that would be able to have a separation from to the main area. So
and so there's a place where you're at now. I like that you gave me that verbiage. Oh gosh, hold on. We're talking about range of magnitude. So you're not quite there yet, but you still got some space. Let me tell you, I mean, you can stuff people anywhere. I lived under stairs when I was at an Oxford house. So, that's where a little tiny bed, on a cot, basically. Yeah. So there's lots of ways you can fit people in different spaces. And I just, I'm excited to see this come to fruition. It is a heavy lift. It looks like you have a big funding gap from that range of magnitude that you're looking for the best and the biggest. But if you're flexible along the way, and it sounds like even with this soft opening you had, that you're still going to be meeting some needs of community members, and every little bit helps. So thank you for that. Any support that I can give you, let me know. It's our district. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, the district technically, but yeah, I mean, that's our neighborhood. Yes, ma'am.
Guys don't have to fight over us.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Any other quick questions? All right, let me just thank you all again. And I don't know, it worked out so well having both here tonight, and just seeing such progress our community's making. Anything the city can do partnership wise going forward. I know you're probably already talking to the mayor. We're here to help too. And just great to see the good work. Keep it up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Right. Before we move on to the next one, just a quick IT note as we still work through it. I'm probably guilty of leaving the microphone on, and Zoom is coming in loud from the middle speakers. There's some feedback. So no. It's if someone is on Zoom talking, and then like right now my microphone's on, obviously, then there's possible feedback going through. So probably good practice just to off and on. Excellent. All right, and with that, we'll move on to items 3A and 3-4. Man, items 3A and 4A. We have Mayor Wheeler here to present 2 reappointments to the Bremerton Planning Commission. The first one is Nick Wofford, and the second one is Ed Coviello. Yeah.
Q. Yeah, so just these are renewals. And Nick's upgraded his onto one of the newer versions, application versions.
Excellent. Council, any questions on either of these?
Thank you, Mayor. I was wondering, it seems there's really good representation on the planning commission of older middle-class white men. I was wondering if you had considered diversifying the pool of applicants to more closely resemble the makeup of Bremerton itself.
Yeah, I'd have to get an actual racial or just demographic makeup. You know, I've made some recommendations to the planning commission that has increased our diversity. These 2 happen to bring unique experiences. One as a former city council member, and the other one as a transit planner.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I understand they have really valuable skills. I just was wondering if we are working on becoming a more diverse city in all of our representation, if there had been, if there are any additional applicants who might bring diversity to the planning commission.
Oh, absolutely. I'm out in the community a lot. I do work with a lot of different groups in a lot of different areas, and have brought forward, you know, what I believe to be the best in our city, and that's for the arts, for the parks. I'll continue to do that, and the planning commission is no different.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Any other questions? I did kind of have this already in my head. Obviously, I served with Nick Wofford, who is fantastic. He's a former council member. Great experience. I also know he has been on the commission a long time. Were there any other applicants that had a sufficient level of expertise to be on planning commission, or?
Not to their level. It takes a long time to learn planning. So the experience is invaluable. We are, and I'll say I'll be a panelist again on Kitsap Community Resource or Kitsap Association of Realtors, Affordable Housing Task Force again. And it is for our work in this city on what we've been doing. We are the gold standard in Kitsap County. And it starts with the planning. It starts with our department staff, planning commission, and of course, council decisions that support that. So,
yeah, no concerns about either of these 2. Especially again, having worked with Mr. Wofford. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. Excellent. Council, good for both of these to be on. Any objection to consent? Okay. Seeing none, we'll have both 3A and 4A on consent for next week. Thank you so much, Mayor. Next up, we have 5A. We have IT Manager Dave Sorensen online here to present acceptance of FY 2022 state and local cybersecurity grant.
All right. Can everybody hear me?
Unclear. Thanks to your awesome microphone, Dave, setup, Dave. Thank you. Thank you so much while you're on, for going above and beyond on not only troubleshooting downstairs, but fixing up here as well. You're just amazing. So thank you.
Well, thank you. So before you is we had got this grant was brought to our attention early on in the year, and so we applied for it, and it takes a long time to get the FEMA wheels and the DHS wheels to go together. But we had planned to just renew an existing firewall system so that we'd already budgeted for it. But this grant actually offers us twofold. It gives us the ability to update the firewall, give us high availability, which means we have a active spare in case that firewall goes down. This is specifically for our SCADA systems with wastewater and water resources, as well as another part of the program is to get us started towards that, that the really big goal of a cybersecurity program that meets and exceeds the federal government guidelines, which are becoming a little bit more stringent as the years go on. So we budgeted for the one firewall. We're going to get 2 firewalls of high availability, help with installing, plus a program to help us build a cybersecurity program. And I'm available for any questions.
Excellent. So just before us is to accept the grant, and the matching funds are in the budget. Cool. Just go through finance, or yeah.
Yeah, it's went through finance and we gave it the head nod. We definitely think this is going to be a good asset. And of course, go get that money. So yeah.
Deal. Any questions, comments? Nope. Seeing none. Oh, yeah. Okay. Perfect. All right. Now, just go you, Dave. Nice job getting this grant and continuing all the great work. This will be critical. Excellent.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. This will go on consent next week. Seeing no objection. All right. So 5A on consent. Next up, we have 6A. Engineering Project Manager Nick Atai is here with us to present supplemental agreement number 1 with SCJ Alliance for design of View Ridge Elementary, Elmira Drive Safe Routes to Schools project. Welcome, Mr. Atai.
Thank you, Council. Good evening. Got a brief presentation here. Another exciting active transportation milestone. There we go. Let me see. All right, there we are. All right. So again, this is the contract modification number 1 with SCJ Alliance. This went to Public Works Committee on October 17th. This is slated for the council meeting next week. So just a quick recap and refresher on the project limits itself. So this is serving View Ridge Elementary School. The project location map is shown on the screen. Generally facilities north of the school along Spruce to East 33rd, Sylvan and Elmira. You can see in green, there are future plans to expand these active transportation facilities north of Ivy Road. That project was submitted for a washdot call for projects. We were not selected, but we were still on a contingency list. And to the south of East 33rd is a active transportation facility identified in the 303 corridor study. Generally, the project includes development of pedestrian and bicycle facilities north of the school, serving the student population in the neighborhood community. We're also going to make improvements which improve pedestrian and cyclist safety and reduce vehicle travel speeds. So why is this a supplement? It's a supplement because we did a small contract under the mayor's authority earlier this year to go out to the public, get feedback. We received the Safe Routes grant. That grant included a scope of work consistent with our non-motorized plan. We know that the non-motorized plan is evolving. It's going to continue to evolve. We're going to go through the comp plan process. So this was a great opportunity to get in front of the stakeholders, the community, build some momentum on the project. You can see some of the outcomes there, engaging early, aligning the public stakeholder goals with the vision of the plan improvements, validate and update project cost, and then again, refine the scope. So, we're here this evening, we've developed a scope based on the publicly preferred options for the non-motorized improvements. You can see some of the stakeholder outreach. We did some partner interviews with the Bremerton schools and the Kitsap Regional Library. We met with Complete Streets. We'll be meeting again with Complete Streets next week to give them an update on the project. We had an open house meeting at View Ridge Elementary in June, and then we had an online survey. This is kind of a overview of the scope of improvements. based on some of the public outreach. So I didn't include all of the survey responses that was presented at Public Works Committee. We'll get those put on the project website. We'll be briefing Complete Streets Committee. But essentially what came out of that is for Elmira Drive north of Sylvan, the public preference was to not have on-street bike lanes and go with a shared mixed-use side path. So what that does is it really narrows down the roadway. It's going to help with vehicle travel speeds. You're still going to have your bicycle facilities provided as a mixed-use side path on the east side of Elmira with a 6-foot sidewalk. That facility will continue and split once you get to Sylvan. Of course, there's sidewalks on Sylvan now. We know the traffic, the volumes are a little higher on Sylvan. So you can see denoted there as number 2 would be a new mixed-use side path adjacent to an alleyway that would connect down to East 33rd. That mixed-use side path would continue down East 33rd to Spruce and ultimately get to the school with some additional sidewalk improvements on Spruce and Sylvan. Project isn't just sidewalks, not just adding the bicycle facilities. This is a comprehensive reconstruction, so stormwater. There's going to be some pedestrian scale lighting, some roadway lighting, curb ramps, pavement marking, signing, and all the fun things that come with a roadway reconstruction. We'll also be taking an opportunity under this project to do a pavement reconstruction on Elmira and improve some utilities on those roadways. So this is a summary. You can see our original contract with SCJ Alliance, just over $62,000. That was for the development of alternatives and the initial public outreach. This contract modification is would be what would be generally taking to council for approval for the design phase services. So you can see this is everything through design, right-of-way support, and even into construction of the project. So schedule-wise, this project is slated for funding obligation for construction in late 25, which would put construction in early 26. With that, I am happy to answer any questions and try to keep this presentation as brief as possible.
Fantastic presentation. Much appreciated. Guessing this one through Public Works.
And I complimented Mr. Atai at the time, and I'm going to compliment him some more now on his presentation and the pains that were taken with the public outreach on this. I just, when you presented on 16th October, it was still 871K. So this modification increase is specifically for what?
So this modification increase is for the full design through construction. So this is 871,839 is the supplement amount, and that's for what we would generally pay for consulting costs
On top of what you
the-
got from the mayor's,
Correct.
which was
Correct.
under 100K.
Correct.
Okay. I think this is a really great thing, and I have no further comments other than to say that we in Public Works were like, yeah. Public
Excellent.
Works Committee, sorry.
Denise, it's in your district. Yeah.
I am tempted to just get up and do a happy dance. This is going to make such a difference. And I got to tell you, the process was wonderful. I mean, I witnessed the community engagement, real community engagement at those meetings. And I saw the integration of a lot of that into the planning. And, I just want to say thank you. And the professionalism of the presentation and everything. Yeah, I am thrilled. I'm going to try not to get spoiled. But I've always said, once you spoil somebody, they hold you to a really high standard. But yeah, thank you really to all of Public Works for this.
Yeah, thank you. And then, I had the pleasure, when I started the city, they had this project for me, and I remember walking out there with I think Josh Farley from the Kitsap Sun, who was there. But we talked to several residents out there and just hearing their stories and just how overdue this project is. I mean, even for the members that didn't make it out to the public meeting, I know there's a lot of push for this project to move forward, a lot of desire. So this exciting.
Any other questions or comments? Yep, Eric.
So Nick, remind me, safe routes to schools, usually it's 10% or so on the dollar. This 871,000 plus the 63, whatever, 930,000. Is this all out of city funds or is this using some of the grant money too?
So we have the grant funds included $800,000 for the PE phase, so it's the preliminary engineering phase. There are some costs that aren't eligible. Those are going to be the pavement reconstruction on Elmira. We're replacing a water main. We're doing some sewer work. Those are all going to be paid out of utility capital funds. One of the things that we are going to kind of be looking at, I mean, this is all a cost plus fixed fee. So, you know, the consultant's going to bill us for the actual time. So as of any contract, you make the best assumptions you can. We feel pretty good about our assumptions, but you know, that's what I'm going to be doing, is managing the contract and the cost over the life of the design, and making sure that we can work within our budget. Hopefully we don't use our full budget, but the grant's going to cover the eligible cost. And then obviously within, you know, we're going to be covering any cost that would be eligible that are beyond the grant. So we've got, you know, $4.155 million in Safe Routes grant funding that have to, you know, work through the engineering right away and construction phase. So that's kind of how we establish our budget and use our other utility and transportation capital funds to cover the cost of that.
So to summarize, it's not cut and dry as far as which bucket of money it comes out of.
Yeah, I think the budget right now, we've probably got six or seven different city revenues that are supplementing the grant funding.
Right. Okay. The lion's share, though, is going to be paid by Safe Routes to School.
Correct.
Other comments, questions? I think for me, just to make sure I got it straight, so essentially the cartoon is done with all the public input. That's not likely to change at all unless something unexpected comes up in engineering and right away acquisition.
Yeah, so we'll be going back out to the public. My goal is to be out in front of the public, you know, spring of next year with kind of a concept plan, getting some final feedback. We're going to be really diving into traffic calming. What does traffic calming look like? You know, get some feedback from the public. And then once we get that public feedback, hopefully we're on a good path where there's not going to be a lot of changes in the design, so we can push forward to getting the design wrapped up early 2025. Right away, you mentioned right away. The only areas that we anticipate needing right away are from the school district and the library. We met with both of them. Both are very supportive of the project, so I see that as being an issue or risk on schedule.
Excellent. I've heard that secondhand, that the school district's very willing to work here and help us get a comprehensive connected north-south route all the way down to the bridge. So that is great to hear. Perfect. Okay, so that's good. So if there's anything like really critical community-wise that somebody for some reason hasn't thought of, there's a possible chance to make tweaks to the cartoon layout, but essentially it sounds like the design is not the design. The cartoon layout is like 90% there, unless the public has any last second, like really strong concerns or something new comes up.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that-
I mean, that's always the goal is,
Mhm.
it's, we never want to get too far in design and expose ourselves to risk. So we want to get full community buy-in as early as possible. I think doing the early outreach, I mean, that's so valuable. So I feel like we're in pretty good shape to get out in front of the public next spring and get some good feedback. Keep everyone, obviously in the loop as we go through the project. But we'll see how that outreach goes. If we need to have a third outreach event, I mean, we'll do whatever the community requests of us. So
That is fantastic. Sounds like it's already been great outreach, but good deal. Get another, yeah. Go for it.
Follow up.
So most of that initial 62K, 63K was for public outreach and to organize events and to gather the information received from the community. Is that correct?
yes, so
Okay.
part of the, it was
Okay.
outreach, and then also we did some cost estimation because obviously if we're going out to the public with different alternatives, we want to make sure that we're not going to blow our budget with one alternative. So we have to kind of vet that out before we go to the public.
Like the whole moving sidewalks thing, you just, yeah, that wouldn't pencil out. And then here, really what I'm trying to do is get a feeling for what are the costs for community outreach, for collecting and analyzing and assembling in an intelligible fashion the data therefrom. Do you have a feel for how much that is over the entire scope of this contract?
As far as the public outreach as part of the supplement, or just as far as the work that we've already done?
For the contract as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, it's not, the cost is pretty minimal. We used a software called Maptionaire during the initial outreach that we did, and it's a web-based survey tool, very intuitive, and it makes it really easy to analyze and manipulate the survey responses in a way that makes sense to present, make decisions. So I foresee that being the similar process for using.
To set up and publicize the open houses? This will be my final question, I promise.
Yes, to set up. So, goes back to working with the stakeholders, having a good relationship with them. So
I'm just talking about the cost.
Oh, the
I think
cost.
that the intent and the way it was carried out is fantastic. I really do.
Yeah, so I mean, I think, and I can look here, I've got the kind of the breakdown.
Thank you, council, for your patience.
Actually, similar questions. I'm glad you asked about the open house.
So let's see here. Public involvement. Yeah, so we have, 20 hours for the consultant for public involvement for the outreach. So part of that again was, through our negotiations with the consultant. I mean, public outreach is such a wide spectrum. So part of our negotiations was the city is going to maybe take on more of the responsibility for public outreach, which really that makes more sense anyway. So really for them, we're keeping the effort low, the cost low. So that's going to be producing exhibits and basically taking their conceptual designs and providing it in a way that's that we can present to the public. So $4,000 is kind of what we plan for public outreach for consultancy. Everything else is going to be handled.
20 hours equals $4,000? 20 hours with the consultant on public outreach equals $4,000? They get paid $20 an hour?
Yeah, that's with their.
Oh, right. Sorry. Order of magnitude off. Thank you.
So I know
Okay.
it's in the packet.
Thank you.
There's a breakdown. So happy to answer any
No,
questions
no,
offline.
all done. Just really trying to figure it out, and you have helped me. In fact, you've answered it entirely. Thank you.
No, I'm glad you did because I didn't see that. That was the open house at the middle school or the library. So that's fantastic to have it right there. Great news. All right. Any objections to having this on consent? Hearing no significant concerns? All right.
I'll brag on it.
Council report. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Atai, again, very much. Great work. Since we're not getting out public, I just got to say this is such great. I love to see the coordination with the library, the city, the school. Yeah, that's this is a win-win-win. So great news. All right. So this will be on consent for next week. And now we continue the fun from the past couple weeks. We have items. Oh, yeah. You want to take a break?
I really do. This budget week, kids have transit.
Good call. This will be a long one. So no, I appreciate that. So yeah, let's give us at least 10 minutes. Let's reconvene at 7:35. That's good. I'm sorry, 6:35. Yes, thank you. Thank you. All right. We'll be back at 6:35. we go. All right, 6:35. Call us back to order. I'm actually going to swap 7 and 8 just for time. So we'll move on to item 8A, and we have Mayor Wheeler and Acting DEM Director Jan Glarum. Good. Perfect. Here to present superseding interlocal agreement for emergency management services. We missing the mayor? Okay. Oh, let me see. Mike, do you mind? I'm so sorry. Do you mind sharing slides one more time?
Yes, I can.
I really tried to get my iPad to cooperate in it.
We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
We're at 8A right now, right?
8A, yes, and we'll go back to 7A after this.
If you'd like to just.
8A.
AA, thank you. A, yeah. Alpha.
I can just do it for you. Let's try to keep up with it. Gotcha.
All right.
Yeah. I'm listening.
I'll just make. We're ready.
Okay.
All right. Take it away.
Okay, my role tonight is just to introduce he is the interim director of the Kitsap County Department of Emergency Management. We are here tonight because there's some changes. There's just a few changes in this interlocal agreement, but I believe that they're substantial. And so that's why we're in front of you, council, to get your approval. And Jan's and there's also some budget implications to this. So I'm just going to introduce Jan Glarum. Thank you, Jan.
For the invitation. Next slide, please. Very good. This is probably the most important one. Currently, your contribution via the ILA annually, at least in 23, was about 106,000, and it's based on a per capita calculation, and it's adjusted annually. So if 100 people move into the city of Bremerton, then it gets adjusted. In my opinion, that's been problematic over the years because of the fluctuations and the difficulty in budgeting. So what I've done is I've changed it from a per capita contribution to basically square miles. So unless you annex a chunk of property, it's not going to change, and it'll be stable for 3 years. So your contribution goes down. So you hopefully got some money to go with something else. What else changes? It moves, I guess, essentially from a governance type of relationship to an advisory type of relationship. So I think that is one of the significant changes, I think. What I'd be asking for is, again, participation, strategic planning. You'll see in a moment here how we changed that within the department to be a bit more inclusive, evaluation of the program objectives, and assessing outcomes. And the other thing is, and I brought copies if you're interested, I'm not sure you are, but I've really clarified roles and responsibilities. In the previous ILA, I would be hard pressed to tell you what you're getting for your $104,000, $106,000. I found that confusing for me. So I definitely spell it out. What are we providing for that contribution, and what do we need in return? So it's more about, as opposed to trying to ask Mayor Wheeler to participate in plans and training and exercise activities and things like that, he'll appoint someone, and that could vary based upon the need. If we're doing active shooter things, maybe appoint the police chief. If we're working on wildline urban interface, get the fire chief involved. I meet with the fire chiefs weekly anyway, so it's really not a lift, and I work with Pat quite a bit now on projects. So that's a bit of a change in the agreement. Next slide, please. I want to just talk a little bit about the department structure, because I have changed that. Next, please. Historically, emergency management, it's based upon the RCWs. Emergency management is this. Historically, that has been very FEMA driven. It's been very grant driven. So if FEMA says we're going to work on this because of the grants, that's what we have to work on and deliver. That's problematic for continuity and really building capacity, because FEMA can change its mind annually on what they want to focus on, and it's difficult. So I've restructured the program in what I call 4 axis of effort areas: support systems, stakeholder readiness, ops and readiness, and community resilience. And next slide, please. And I'll go into each of these just briefly. Support systems, bottom line, that's what I need to have people sitting in their desks to turn on the lights, have a place to work. It includes our community warning system. It's the foundation. Our department doesn't work if you don't have a support system in place. So that's a real baseline function. Next, please. Stakeholder readiness. Simply stated, I have a point of contact for all of the stakeholders. So there's an email address, there's a name attached to anybody that's in the stakeholder category. This can include cities. This can include the first response agencies, the Navy. It includes just about any of those type of agencies you can think of. And this is definitely it's been in our wheelhouse for a long time, and we're still going to continue this type of effort. Thank you. Operations is interesting because we don't normally function in this arena. We only do this when the duty officer handles a call, or 24/7 duty officer handles a call. I have to make an emergency proclamation or we open the EOC. Then all of a sudden we reduce or eliminate effort in the other areas and we focus on operations. So that's kind of where this is. It's why we're there, but we don't always do this. It's maybe 10% of our time that we're actually functioning in this area. Thank you. In community resilience, this is an area that I'm expanding as we speak. What we're finding is that there are challenges in the community that don't belong to anyone and any. So emergency management may have a small piece of it, but maybe other folks have a piece of it. So what we're finding is we're being asked to be at the table a lot more because of the need for that emergency preparedness and response. And how do we can't prevent things from happening, but we can try to get the ability to bounce back a little bit quicker. Whether that's people, whether that's businesses, whatever it is. Throwing sandbags out every winter is an example of operations. And it shows that you're not learning that, well, okay, why are we having this problem consistently? And what can we do to try to mitigate that so it's not as impactful, or people aren't where the water seems to want to go and the water's going to go where the water wants to go. So it could be more policy issues. It could be more advocacy. We're definitely expanding that. Example of how these axis of efforts work, where I spend a lot of my time in the support systems, making sure that the foundation is there, as well as stakeholder readiness. I was with the Navy most of the day today with an exercise. Operations, same thing, but community resilience is actually going to be an expanded area of effort. The county is just revising their comprehensive plan as we speak. There's a whole section on emergency preparedness and response that we had to comment on. So it's changing the way we're doing business in emergency management. And also by changing the funding stream, so being so grant driven, now we can really focus more in this areas, because this is not an area that FEMA is necessarily great at this point. Next, please. And that is my presentation. I will field questions.
Well, try not to make an emergency. Not my best. Anyway, questions, comments, council? Thank you. Yeah, Anna.
Sorry. So I'm really happy to see that you're focusing on expanding community resilience. That's great news. Because one of the things that happens, because the climate crisis is real, is that for most of the disasters we've had recently, you can't really get more than a block. In the snowpocalypse, when we had the 108-degree days, in the wildfire smoke, it's just really hard to get past your block. So I was wondering if you were coordinating with the neighborhood captains that Joe Sexton runs out of BPD and possibly expanding that to be not just a mechanism for, for looking out for each other and protecting the public safety, but also for just being mobilized to know what to do when the next emergency comes, because they're just going to keep coming thicker and faster.
All right. Thank you for the question, because don't get me talking, because then I'll get excited and we'll be here all night. I'm sorry. There have been FEMA programs in the past, the state program past, like the 2 weeks ready, map your neighborhood, those type of activities. We've done quite a bit of development on starting to prepare for that catastrophic earthquake we're expecting. We've broken the county up into a micro islands concept that we anticipate will be isolated based on roads. And now we're starting to try to find partners in those locations that are willing to allow us to put caches of emergency supplies there. Dave Rasmussen, my public educator, has come up with a new program called Meet Your Street, as opposed to a neighborhood. Now we're just work on your street, work in your street. And that will incorporate with our neighborhood gathering sites, where we're going to provide some resources, not a lot, but some resources, because in a major event, if we can provide life safety and life sustaining, that may have to do us for a period of time. So we're definitely engaged in that activity.
Okay. And we have your email to be able to follow up with numerous questions.
Oh,
cool.
24/7.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for the question.
Denise.
This sounds like a shift or okay, I did
It
get
is.
that. Thank you. And it sounds like a strategic shift.
Is that as well?
Yes, and I love the way your mind works with all this and the way it was presented. It really resonates, I think, with all of us that kind of think in that way. And yet you're charging us less money, and it seems more collaborative, and we're getting more in sustainability. And I want to know what the magic is, because that's hard to do. So any quick answer to that, and then just any possible ways that we can assist. I think it's always important to find out what could the council's role be in helping you succeed in this. And so getting into that, we have to keep our bumpers on, stay in our lane, but I'm sure some of us anyway would like to help.
Absolutely. And I think there's room for everybody. I've already done a strategic planning meeting with my staff, my extra help, so that we're kind of looking at it. But I really want to expand that out to stakeholders. What do you think we should be doing? I could poll everybody in this room and say, what does emergency management do? And it's a tough question to answer. So I need to build public value by doing what the public finds value in. You need to tell me what that is. The Board of County Commissioners need to tell me what that is. We're still going to do the RCW is what we need to do for emergency management. But like I said, piling sandbags every year is just, that's silly. We can do a lot better than that. And that's just the way I think. I can't tell you when any specific disaster is going to happen, but we'd be a fool not to assume it could be happening tonight, tomorrow, and we better be ready. And that's just been my career over quite a while, is stuff happens and you just deal with it at that point. So I do not like people not being ready. And I really view that's our department's mission, is to be ready. Sidebar, all of my staff now have go bags and everything else. And then next year, we'll actually be doing overnight camping out. We're doing our job because those may be the conditions we're operating in. So we're just changing the philosophy in the department.
Your questions? Yeah. I had a few. This is actually timely because I was going to actually give Chief McGanny a call, or you, Mayor. The reason is that if I remember correctly, the shipyard was doing a drill today of an incident. Okay, an emergency management coordination. So I heard about that. And then in the back of my head, I started thinking, right, technically as council president, mayor pro tem, is like, anything were to happen to you, Mayor, in a situation like that, or you're stuck, then obviously we need to step in. And so it got me thinking, and then with this role and appointment here, would we keep it that the council president is the alternate to the mayor, similar to PSRC?
Yeah.
Just, yeah, for that,
I
'cause I see
think
for
that's
the
your
regular,
decision,
regular
not
planning
our
meetings.
decision.
Yeah.
Right. And one thing I did way back, you remember Phyllis, man,
Yes.
and we sat in on incident command. We set in on a structured drill, and electeds do have a role. And so it's a small one, but it's an important one. And so it could be helpful, Jan, we can talk about it, where maybe just something where they can see what happens. How does a command center come together? How do you structure it so quickly? And then how do we, because we don't know what happens to electeds, and there is a role.
Well, and I would disagree that it's a small role. From a standpoint, at my standpoint, I've been living in the incident command system for a long time. But command still needs policy direction. You're going to need to coordinate with maybe the commissioners, maybe with the city of Port Orchard. And you're going to have to adjudicate where we're going to spend scarce resources. Look, I need policy decisions. We're actually doing a class for electeds in December, just for that. It's a FEMA class, but you would not recognize it as a FEMA class because I completely redone it so that I'm not wasting anybody's time by this is what FEMA says that X, Y, and Z is. I want my electeds to know what do I need from them and what can they expect from us, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So I do think there is a role for that. Example, just Friday, we did a tabletop exercise with the city of Port Orchard. They wanted to get better at doing things, so they acted their see all their departments. And we went through some severe weather scenarios, and then Saturday it flooded. So we haven't heard back yet, but I suspect that things went a little bit better on Saturday because of the work that was done before that. So all you have to do is ask, and we're going to be all over the request.
No, it's fantastic. So I'm guessing like the scenario today is the city's role mostly on communication and using its communication resources.
From my standpoint,
or I guess from the mayor as well. Like, I don't know, you're doing the drill today. Yeah. What kind of was involved in the mayor and like the administration's, the city's actions in response to that?
Right. Well, today was a plume, I believe it was a plume drill.
A potential plume. Yeah.
Potential plume. So we're already working on how we might coordinate more quickly. And this is part of Jan's proposing, where we assign a staff person. Well, it's an assignment. And so it'll be my appointment where we integrate right into the Navy's drill. And so right now we communicate on real functions. If that was a real plume, we'd be working on it. We'd be looking at the wind directions and what other future elements are out there and all that stuff. But yeah, it's
we're going to take actions to do the best we can to protect, health, safety, and welfare of anybody that might be in the impacted area. But I'd actually reach out to Pat and Mayor Wheeler this morning just if they wanted to play, because the Navy really works on a script. Work on a script, and we had to do a press briefing today. That's one reason I'm dressed as I am. I would have loved to see Mayor Wheeler there, just to put it in the Navy's head that if it's something that potentially, in this case it didn't, but it potentially did, they can invite Mayor Wheeler in to participate. First planning meeting, they weren't going to invite the public health district.
We're working on that.
We're supporting the health district, so you better invite them because we're not going to be making health decisions in emergency management. So we made a lot of gains today, but we just had a brief hot wash this afternoon. Yeah, there's still more work to do on that.
Yeah. That makes total sense because you just want to have the same. The city may not have a lot to do in an incident if something happens at the Navy base, but that communication out to residents makes total sense.
Citizens of Bremerton want to hear from.
Right. Yeah, you're elected. Yeah.
I don't want to hear from.
Right. Even if it's the same message. Yeah.
I can share a quick example.
Oh, sure.
There was a bag unidentified placed at the Main Street gate. And this was 3 or 4 years ago. I was actually inside the shipyard giving a briefing to the Naval Managers Association. They figured out a way to get me out of there back to City Hall, which was kind of a command central area. And they were looking for approval to secure roads all the way around the perimeter of the shipyard until they figured out what the bag was. And so absent me, that's where, you need a structure in place. Obviously, and that needs to be developed. In this case, I was there. I'm always here, but like you said, you never know what's going to happen. And you want a plan in place. You need contingencies upon contingencies. And that's what Jan's going to be doing.
One more example on that, and this is where I want to work with all the electeds. The commissioners are, a good portion of them are new, so they were asking a lot of questions as well. And they were trying to figure out, well, what happens if we're not available? And I said, well, through county code, I can do things, and then they have to ratify that. So I can make a proclamation, I can do things. They have to ratify that. That's when time is of the essence. If time isn't a factor, there's no reason that you can't make your own proclamation. Now, we can certainly talk about it and coordinate, but I think there are opportunities where electeds at the city level or county level can be more engaged in that process to make a declaration as opposed to asking me to. It was Mayor Rolfo said, "Oh, you're our designated survivor." That's a little dramatic, but yes, I can act if you can't. But I think in a lot of cases, there's time involved. We could confer, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that?
Yeah.
That makes total sense. So I guess my only ask is, so in attachment B, general B, it says each city mayor shall be a member of the Kitsap County Emergency Management Council and may appoint one designee representative as an alternate. We codify that as the council president, just in line with PSRC. And I'm really not thinking about myself. I'm just thinking of continuity, if so that the council president's just up to speed on those meetings. And then if something crazy does happen and the mayor's unavailable in an emergency, then at least the mayor pro tem is up to date on most of the procedures.
It would be unique to our government. Bainbridge has a city manager. So I don't know. I mean, how that, could we do that internally? Because we make our own, we develop our own structure, how we do backups and appointments.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine if it's a picky, I just think it makes sense as a city.
In my head, that's a continuity of government determination that you would make.
Yeah.
We can help you with those type of planning efforts, but I think what works for you should work for you.
Yeah. It'd be the council president's norm. That's the role. So in the city of Bremerton, we can, that's basically the role, is if for some reason I'm unavailable for whatever reason, then we, that's what we got to do.
Yeah. Hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. Well, and then
mayor
if
works hard.
something-
Yeah.
Something, the finance committee chair is actually third in line.
Yeah.
Actually, vice president is third in line, or vice.
Oh, wait.
Finance.
Oh, maybe.
So I'm third. I'm second. I'm third and fourth.
I think so. Yeah. Have to go.
I got it locked in now.
Let's hope there's nothing where we actually have to dive in. Yeah.
My request
Yeah.
is that we make sure that the council president and the mayor are never in a plane together.
There we go. Yeah. So I don't think we need to amend this whole document or anything, but Mayor, are you good with that, with making the alternate the council president, same as PSRC?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we
All
can,
right.
yep. Yeah, that'll be, so when because I still have to work on who the appointment's going to be, who I'm going to designate
that's
to
separate,
represent
yeah.
the city. And as Jan said, it could change depending on the situation. So
Yeah.
we'll have to work through that.
Oh, totally. Yeah. This is just the alternate to the mayor. Yeah, not available. So, okay. Excellent. No, this is great. Thank you. Really appreciate the extra time just getting up to speed on how it all works. So, yeah. All right. Any final comments, questions? If not, hopefully consent for next week. All right. This will go on consent for next week. Thank you very much for sticking around late. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Thanks for moving me up too.
Oh, yeah. Now we get to continue the past several weeks of budget fun. And we'll go back to item A7. Yeah. All right. Is Karen here or online? Just you. Okay. All right. So we just have Finance Director Mike Riley to present proposed final public hearing on ordinance to approve and adopt the fiscal year 2024 City of Bremerton budget. I know we have a few outstanding items from the final workshop to talk through.
Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, so no presentation on the final public hearing, just teed up for next week. So we have a placeholder tonight to follow up on the takeaways, questions we had from last Thursday. We had two. There was, I think, some additional court questions. We provided a request for travel to the council. Hopefully, you saw that in your email. And then also the second item that was a transportation project. Asked staff to go back and look at possibility of workload. So city engineer Ned Lever and public works director Tom Nucky's here tonight to talk about that as well. Not sure in what order. Really let you kind of open it up and let you drive, and we'll try to answer questions.
That's good. I'm happy to just start in on the 6th Street and Public Works, just because y'all been waiting around all night too.
Oh, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is not 10 o'clock, so you know.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I think the ask was if council finds budget, can we deliver design? And we identified a budget of $700,000. So that hasn't changed for us. We spent a lot of time working on who can do what, who can we free up, and figuring out what we can't do. So I think we have a plan that'll work. I do. I'm a little concerned. There's going to be some compression of workload for some folks, but I think it hopefully is manageable. So I'll start with Naval Avenue. So the project that we will pause, I'll say, or slow walk. We're not going to stop it, but what we're going to do is we're going to take that to 90% design. We're funded for design with the grant. We have a grant that we haven't accepted yet, which will come before council for right-of-way phase. At the beginning of 2024, we will get to 90% in the first 2 or 3 months for the project, and we will accept the grant between now and then we'll obligate the funds for the right-of-way phase. And once we obligate the funds for the right-of-way phase with WashDOT, it's sort of out of RPEC's hands, and it's in WashDOT's hands to help us manage our way through that. And we've got flexibility in that timeline as long as we show progress. So progress means we're going to spend somewhere between 2 and 4 hours a month, like doing something to show progress, to just nurse that project along. But it's essentially going to be, you know, sitting pretty still. And the person that's going to pick that project up in 2025 is, well, actually in 2024 is Vicki Grover. But she is going to be dedicated to the comp plan, and we need to deliver the comp plan without any distractions. So Naval will be a distraction, hopefully a very minor distraction for Vicki to deliver the comp plan. So once we do that with Naval, then that frees up one of our other engineers, Chris Dimmitt, to work on the adaptive signals project, which frees up Nick Atai to do 6th Street. So I know that's probably going to make everyone really sad that Nick's going to be working on that, but that's what we're trying to accomplish. So
There be presentations.
You won't like them. Yeah. So that's the whole shell game that we worked on. Now, Nick, he's got a construction project that's in suspension right now until like February, March. He's going to be able to work on his other design project that he just talked about tonight. And then probably, you know, start working on an RFP for consultant selection for 6th Street, like early in the year, maybe even December timeframe. We'll see. Well, I mean, he's got some things to do besides this, right? So hopefully early in the year, we get a start on getting a consultant on board. And then once we have a consultant on board, you know how it works. We get the contract, comes to council, they start working on it. There's going to be high spots and low spots in workload for Nick. When he goes out of suspension on 11th and Washington, he's going to have a heavy workload. So he's going to have to, you know, figure out how to manage 6th Street and View Ridge and the construction for 11th and Washington. And he thought he could handle keeping the adaptive signals project, and he cannot. So that is our plan. I'm going to go through, I have some, in a nutshell, that's what it is.
Okay.
But I've got some stuff to walk through, and I have a bunch of talking points, and I'm just going to kind of go through bullets, and then you'll get sound bites, and then we can ask questions or whatever after that. Okay. So a couple things about Naval Avenue. When we go into an administrative hold like that, it costs money. You still have administrative costs. So we think there's about 10 grand in administrative costs associated with doing what we're planning on doing with Naval Avenue. If we're pushing out construction, there's immediately, CPI escalation of costs. And at 4%, based on the project cost, that's about $116,000 of extra cost associated with pushing this out. Now, we don't have construction funding right now. $116,000. So we don't have construction funding right now. So that might have been real anyway, until we're actually funded for construction. You're escalating every year. You don't have construction funding. Let's see. Talked about obligation, permitting 90% design. Okay, for 6th Street, this is, internally funded. It's the first time we've ever done this. And the nice thing is, if we just relied on this $700,000 that's REAP money, there's a lot of federal requirements that you don't have to do. We're going to do those requirements anyway. It's going to be like voluntary goals for DBE. It's going to be NEPA, SEPA, and the NEPA environmental process. And the reason is because if we do get that TAP grant, or we do get future federalized money, we have checked the boxes to be ready to, be forward compatible with federal money if we get it. So that adds some effort and some cost, but it's only a good idea. So that's, let me see here. Okay, I mentioned that if we're on a contingency list for a TAP grant for 6th Street, we talked to Jennifer Barnes at PSRC, I guess, today, and I had said the other day that, hey, if we get money and there's a good thing, opportunity there for us to offset some of these costs. Like if we're 50% design and then we get on the, the contingency line drops. I think that's still true. She wasn't sure, Shane was trying to follow up on that, and she wasn't sure if that was, that was going to be a thing that was real. After talking to her today, I think there's opportunity for us to get grant money if the contingency line drops. But what she said is the PSRC has some new policies they're coming out with that are probably going to mean, that there's not going to be, that line's not going to move. Like there's not going to be projects falling off of the primary list to, get contingency funding. So while it was like a good news, bad news kind of story, I think we need to plan on, fully funding this right now out of REIT and not be anticipating that there's going to be a grant. If it comes in, great. I mean, we're ready for it, but I'm not sure that's going to be a thing. Okay. So, impacts. So some of the impacts, now this financial decision is yours, right? It's not mine. I'm here to talk about whether we can deliver it with, but we are concerned because we have lots of projects that continuously overrun these days. It's just the way the economy is and the way bid climate is and everything. So, when you're weighing this decision, just realize that, the money's available today, but there's other need. And I'm sure you guys are aware of that, but some of the other projects that are in queue right now for construction, Warren Avenue Bridge, Quincy Square, 11th and Washington may come in. The View Ridge project's a high dollar project like we just talked about. And 6th Street Phase 3 still hasn't even been bid. So until we get a bid from a contractor, we don't know if we're under budget for projects. And when we're not under budget and the dollars come in high, I usually come talk to Mike about REIT, right? Or stormwater utility tax, unless there's some utility money where there's an expanded scope for utilities. So you just need to be aware of that. That's something and it's your decision. So this is a snapshot in time for where we are. An option to those two items for funding is if we cancel projects. So the two programs that we have in the TransCap fund that we could cancel to find money if we needed to are chip seal and the sidewalk trip hazard reduction. And that's about $700,000. Keeping it real here. Okay, so we have a REIT. You can get, you can go to page 113 in your budget and you can look at the REIT projection. And some of that is, there's projects in there that aren't even real yet that are projections for the future. But it's not a robust projection, is it, Mike? So we may come back and say, hey, those 5 projects I just identified need money. And you may look at REIT and go, well, it's not coming out of REIT. And then the next shoe to fall is going to be, we're going to abandon chip seal and trip hazard reduction. And that's going to be, we're going to need the money to complete a project that's, running down the tracks, right? And then it's going to be hard decisions about what that looks like. So I'm just trying to make sure you guys have the full picture of what could happen. Okay. In looking at this workload and adding this project, we thought we could add 2 design projects in 2025. This takes us to 1 design project in 2025, and that's not a construction project, it's a design project. So our grant asks or applications are probably going to be kind of limited for the next year and a half. We got to prioritize what is the most important, and we've talked about going to Public Works Committee and going to Finance Committee to do that. But we're not going to be coming in asking for 4 or 5 or 6 more grants when we have a capacity problem right now with staffing. Okay. Is that on the record? Okay.
Recording in progress.
All right. Good. So the last 2 things I've got in my notes, and I might have missed something here, but my concerns are, again, workload compression. In order to do this, Gunner's going to pick up 2 small design projects. They're not big. It's I think it's helping deliver the scope of work for this year's chip seal and for striping. And then he's going to become the kind of umbrella project manager for adaptive signals, because Chris Dimmitt, who's going to do most of the work, is one of our junior engineers. And so he needs a little bit of oversight, right? So Gunner is not supposed to be working on capital. He's not supposed to be doing any of that stuff that I just talked about, but he's willing to take it on and try to deliver it so that it frees up, Shane and Nick and everybody to be able to do this, to pull this into our workload. So the more we leave Gunner alone, the better, so he can pick that work up. And I think that's all I've got. So with that, the good news is I think we can do it. I'm really happy that we can put Nick on it. I think he'll do a great job on that project. Public outreach is going to be a big part of it, and it's something that Nick's really good at. So I think we've all seen that, right? So any questions?
Say up front how much I appreciate that, and all the pros and cons and the thorough research, and really just thank you. Thank you and director and everybody in Public Works. Questions, comments, Michael?
My question is about the intersection of the 2 projects, the 6th Street and the Naval. It seems like that could be a good move. We've got a project going down Naval to rework it, and then now we have another project. So it might be kind of good that Naval's not designed yet.
Naval, like I said, we're going to try to get to 90% design. So it's pretty far along in the design phase. And then you go into the right-of-way phase, and there could be some impacts to design once you get through right-of-way, because there could be some, tough properties or whatever.
Knowing at this point that it would be more placeable through traffic and then turning traffic.
Well, we'll coordinate the design, and it'll give us, now that we can design 6th Street, we'll make sure that both projects have design money at that intersection. So hopefully we get that right. Right. So
thank you for that.
Same questions. Great. Anna?
Okay, shoot if you must, this old gray head, but protect my chip seal. So I guess the adaptive signals, which has a very high city match, right? It's for what, 898K. The city match is about.
No, that was again when we were looking at that at council, that you were pulling the wrong number off the REIT projection.
What is the price for the adapt?
I don't have that in front of me. Like, I didn't come prepared to break down the project budget for adaptive signal. So
okay, well, the city match for it is $450,000 or 448.
0.5, something like that. That's what we were told on November 2nd.
I would have to look at the budget breakdown to verify that for you.
So once again, council, the more I research these adaptive signals, the more I think that they are inappropriate for a city like ours that is trying to become more walkable, more bikeable. I'm still deeply upset about the woman who was killed yesterday trying to cross the street at Kitsap and Oyster Bay. But adaptive signals, from everything I have researched, and I ask you all to please remember that I am not a PE and I am not acting. I have no idea that, my research is equal to the years of training that it takes to be a PE. But the National Association of City Transportation Officials, they are PEs. And they feel that just stabilized signals that change at regular intervals are more appropriate for an urban environment in which you have lots of different types of transportation. And especially, the adaptive signals do not seem to be able to recognize pedestrians or to prioritize them. WashDOT's website itself says that this is the most expensive and the most technologically complex way to run a signal, and that its use is restricted to certain specific, more or less suburban areas. We aren't a suburb, we're a city. And I think going down this road of the adaptive signals, when with the 450,000 of the city match, we could pay for at least the first estimate on the 6th Street Road diet design that was done a few years ago, and reduce the workload on Chris Dimmitt, on Gunnar, and Nikotai. And the downside to this, of course, is that we have approved it. We approved the grant. But I guess I'm asking you to consider whether have newer knowledge. We did not know then what we know now. And I don't think that this is a useful path for the city to go down. And I know for sure it's the most expensive path. And I get that from WashDOT. So I'm saying this is a really viable alternative. And before Ned tells me this, I'm going to tell all of you, of course, the big downside would be wherever that grant came from is going to be extremely reluctant to ever give us another grant again after all this time has gone by. But other than that objection, I think that this would be a great source, and I'm all done.
Chair's prerogative here to ask Mike if we could clarify exactly for 2024 and then 25 onwards about the adaptive signals project and what.
Yeah. If you look in your budget document, look at the REIT page and a couple of projects, you'll see that adaptive signals. There's nothing budgeted in 2024, and 2025 has $60,000, and 2026 has $260,000. The 892 reference was 113. The 892 reference was for the preservation project. There's just one line down. So nothing in 24.
Got it. So city REIT funds 16, 2025, 216, 2026, nothing 2024.
Correct.
Okay. So even if we were to, sorry, I'm jumping the gun, but council doesn't mind. If we were to basically cancel that whole project, it doesn't free up any funds for 2024.
Not in 2024.
Yeah, okay.
So right now on the proposed table, council identified with the administration, we had $200,000 savings already from a project that was Upper Shore Drive. And with a total of $700,000 for this project, we're looking for $500,000. We believe there were savings from the offset of the Quincy Square Award that we received grant funding. There's $1.7 million that was previously that you'll still see in this projection for Quincy Square 1.7 that is removed off the REIT projection, which left after some other overruns and approvals through council to spend those dollars. There's money there for for the $500,000 ask that's being asked. We just want to bring the caution on the reprojection. Right now, we're collecting at 42% of budget. So we budgeted in 23 at 3 million. We're collecting at 42% on that. And then the out years, you see 1.5 million. Again, that's we don't know where we're going. So we're just being cautious. And that's why I'll just say Ned, I don't want to use your official title, city engineer Lever, I just recommend it if at a time we get in the out years, it did, we don't ever say that. If at a time we get in the out years, those projects where we do have flexibility are those projects he identified with chip seal and other projects that live within the transportation capital fund as we have flexibility and control. So.
Well, thank you for explaining that. Sorry,
I just
Jim.
had one thing. I mean, we need to remember when we go after a grant, it goes to council, finance committee for approval before we go. It's accepted by council. This project was phase 1 of the 303 corridor study. It went through a robust public process to select this and prioritize this project for that whole corridor. So we're still dedicated to completing that project. Now, if council wants to have a conversation about not, like rescinding the grant, yes, it's not going to look very good for us to do that. I would not recommend that we do that. And honestly, I'd like to quit revisiting it on some level. So I think council needs to make that decision without staff input, because I can't add any more to that, right? Like if there's an interest in not accepting the grant that we've already accepted and turning it back and saving this REIT money, then I would love council to tell me that that's what you want to do. But I can't answer, like continuously answering what the match is. And like we've accepted it and we are on that path. So if you want to change that path, I would rather you just tell me and you make that decision and then we move forward.
Yeah.
So
now I'll go for other comments and questions. And if I see a near majority of council considering that, then we could have a longer discussion on it. But I think for now, let's go back to 6th, the points brought up. Okay. Assuming there are other questions, comments. Michael, did you have more, or Jennifer? Oh, I didn't see your light.
So how do you really feel about the adaptive signal conversation? No, I understand.
Honestly, I don't know anything about them. I've never put them in. I've never done an adaptive signals project. I didn't select it in the phasing for 303. I know that the city did as a group, with our process, and we are on a path to deliver what everyone said they wanted. But when it comes to adaptive signals, I think Jane and Councilwoman Mockler, they both have stronger opinions about it than I, and are maybe more educated about it than I am, right? But we are on a path to deliver it right now, and I think we need to stay on the path. And how we got there was important, and I think we need to remember that. So, yeah.
Thank you. And so can you, so it sounds like, can you refresh my memory too? You're talking about the intersection, the grant for the intersection. Can you remind me what that is? The Naval and 6th. Can you remind me what that grant is? I'm sorry, I'm a little sick today.
What grant? I think.
The Naval Avenue, but it was talking about the intersection. You're talking about accepting that grant.
The question was about the intersection of Naval and 6th, right?
Yeah.
So we had a project to do the design to, to get Naval going. And that was the first project that was supposed to get done and constructed, in that intersection. Now, other than the paving work that was done with the preservation. So now we're going to do this Rechan project, to turn it into 2 lanes with the center, 2-way left turn lane and bike lanes.
So I think what I'm just curious about is, does this disrupt the Naval Avenue design project? I mean, you said you're already at.
No,
you're trying to get to 90%
those two
design.
projects need to come together
in
a cohesive way. So what it probably does is it makes sure that 6th Street and the Naval project are compatible at that intersection now, because we didn't have design money to do this rechannelization design. So if we're more likely to be successful at getting it right now, is the way I'd say it.
Yeah. Well, I just appreciate all the work that y'all did, and it's so creative in what you're doing, and I'm always impressed. And I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Anyone else? Yeah, I'll just again say thanks, and yeah, I think we do need to go in eyes wide open. These are some of the tough choices we have to make in prioritization and managing the risks. I do go back to, so I'll just say I don't I don't support pulling the adaptive signals project. I'm happy to learn more about it, but I think we're too far down the road. But I'm okay with accepting the risk if we have to pull trip hazard and pavement. I know it's a tough one, but I'm just looking at this as I went back to a victim of your own success on one doing so many projects right now, which is fantastic, but especially just getting this, Warren Bridge plus Elmira here in terms of north-south corridor for multimodal. We've already gotten Wheaton Way, we've gotten Washington 11th, and this just seems like the missing piece. And I'm just really worried if we do put this off and it's, we're looking closer to 2030 than now on getting it done. I think it's just so important to prioritize this, get it done, and then can go back to the others. But I really appreciate being eyes wide open because, yeah, you said it's a little uncertain environment. So it's a risk, but I think it's the right one.
So maybe because where we're at, I still support doing the Sixth Street regionalization with a budget, and I don't support the adaptive. But I do also want to just say, I feel like the department has heard us say what our concerns are with adaptive signal. So as they move forward in that process, hopefully they'll be able to take some of that, into however the software or whatever.
Yes. Yeah. All right. If anyone hasn't weighed in, I just want to make sure. So I'm putting it out there that we keep it in the budget as is, the 199,000 dedicated to doing this plus the REIT, and moving forward with the plan as outlined by Public Works, accepting the risks.
And I really appreciate the communication of the risks. I always want to know what the cost benefit ratio is going into anything. The one thing that we can't put a figure on really is the community and the value of this to our community, and also its vital role in the entire active transportation plan, right? I appreciate, this is magical as far as I'm concerned, that you are able in 1 week to come back with this plan. I mean, that must have taken several of you a lot of time and, again, strategic thinking. And it isn't fun to start thinking about what you're going to have to leave behind and how to mitigate things. And I tend to just live my life a little more hopeful and really positive. Doesn't always work. I think this is the right thing to do. And I think we pay a price sometimes for doing the right thing. And I think we might be paying that price this time. But I still feel like it's the right thing,
I think we're hopeful too. Like we're hopeful that this works out and that, all of the pieces sort of fall into place and we can be successful the way we've described. Like that is our hope. And that's what we're going to try to deliver. So,
yeah.
Quinn's hand up online. So let me go to Quinn. Quinn's still here. We haven't lost him yet.
Fixing my hair there. Thanks a lot, Ned. Thanks a lot, Mike. This is really, really helpful. Just for straw poll purposes, I'm not interested in pulling the adaptive signals, and I just really appreciate the communication. In this role, I'm part of the legislative body, but in my actual day job, I am a city employee, and it's really important, I think, for electeds to get feedback from the people that are closest to the work, and have like that knowledge. And so I would just continue, especially as I step off, continue to encourage staff to give that feedback and kind of speak that truth to power, because you can have folks coming in thinking that they know better, and it's actually this is your area of expertise. And I think it's really important for full council to hear your thoughts on projects and knowing that you're close to that work and how things are working there. So I just want to really thank you for that communication that I heard. Appreciate it.
I saw a hand. Yeah. Sorry.
I guess something, I'm not really sure how to put this, but I don't want, is there any way to, like Gunnar seems to throw himself into oh, something is needed, I will go and do it.
Yeah, he's great about that.
Yeah. So I don't want to break him.
Thank you. I don't want you to either.
Yeah. So if you think of something that we could do down the line to preserve Gunner for the future.
Well, honestly, I think this is an inquisitive council, right? And it's leaving him alone to just get the work done is probably the best thing we can do. And that goes for Shane too. Like the more that we keep circling back to try to get more information or justify something, I mean, that's inefficient for us. So we need to be efficient in how we deliver our projects. So the more we can just be like allowed to move it forward, once we've been given direction by council, this is what we want to do, take the grant, get the work done. We need to communicate with council, but we need to be able to like efficiently get the work done in a linear way, right? So backtracking isn't good and justifying takes time. And so that, I guess if there's any way we can work on that, that'd be great. That's what I'd say.
I'd just like to add that for each of the last First Fridays, Public Works staff, including Gunnar and Ned and others, were out there participating in First Friday.
Yeah.
So you'll remember that was part of the transportation element contract, but they went way beyond that. So just
they're excited for Krampus, I take it. So
Yeah.
that's what I heard anyway.
Yeah.
Public
Good news.
comment on that. You
Oh,
better
boy.
look out.
All right, fantastic. All right, so I'm seeing a majority to continue with this path in the budget. Any final comments or objections? All right. Perfect. Thank you so much. City Engineer Lever.
Thanks.
Yeah.
You're done.
All right.
Thanks, Nick.
Yep. No. I'll say it out loud. If we have to pull pavement preservation on the road and someone says, why is my pothole not fixed? And we said we made a priority call decision, 2 years ago. We're here. All right. So that was one of the items. The other, I believe, was court security funding.
Yes, yeah. During the presentation, we had a $115,000 add to the general fund for court security. I believe Judge Flood is on.
Yes, believe so, Judge Flood.
And so we had some council questions. I do have some information on some cost savings. We did talk about the assistant court administrator proposal to reduce that position and to create a legal tech 2. Just I want to provide the delta real quick before the judge jumps in on what the savings is. It's about a $32,000 savings with those two that position adjustment, the reorganization. So that would save $32,000 to the court budget, and then leaving the $115,000 for the council to discuss.
So just make sure I got it correct. So that's 32 savings not currently reflected in the printed budget.
Correct.
And we are looking for $115K. That's also not identified in the.
We're looking for $115,000, and then the proposed savings would be roughly $32,000 from the proposed reorg.
Okay.
From the judge.
So then it's
So the difference of.
Yeah. What's the?
I get you.
Eric, human calculator.
The exact dollar, 83,600.
All right, 83.6. Okay. Judge Flood, I don't know if you got a chance to watch the council deliberation last week, but if you had any thing you wanted to add or address to this before we kind of dive in, floor is yours.
Other than the presentation that I made. So I understand that the council has
Oh,
questions.
I'm so sorry. It's coming in really faint. Let me try and get the volume up. Try again.
Can you hear me better now?
There we go. Yep, perfect.
So I'm here to answer any questions that the council may have. As Director Rowley indicated, the court did present in its presentation that we are downgrading a administrator position, the assistant court administrator, which I presented in the presentation, that there is more of a need for clerks, and we do have a need for a clerk 2 versus the assistant court administrator. I believe he said that would be about $32,000 savings. We currently have a sitting contract with our securities. I always mix up what their merchant security services is, MSS. That contract with what the court came in and requested, the 70,000 and the 75,000 and the 60,000 would be sufficient for the court's security for the year. And that is where that figure, I believe, with my understanding from Director Riley, is 115,000 total for the security budget. So in years past, it's been around $80,000, between $70,000 and $80,000. The costs did rise for merchant security services. We're looking at the need, as previously presented, for the courtroom coverage as well as the front door coverage, and it would not exceed what me and Melinda just discussed prior to this meeting. We're looking at merchant marine services being between 32 and 35 hours a week, and not exceeding 32 hours for Seattle's finest.
All right, thank you, Judge. Appreciate you going through that. Okay, so I don't know if anyone wants to have any questions or comments, but essentially we have an ask for 83,600 that we don't have identified a source of funding for. And we need to talk through and come up with either a solution or answer for the budget. Can kick us off or either, yeah.
I just want to clarify, this maybe Director Riley, you might be able to just remind me. We had a substantial increase in the budget between 21, 22 up to 23. And can you tell me about, it looks like supplies, services, taxes, and personnel went up. But can you tell me a little bit about the jump?
Yeah, we can work through. So personnel, there was a lot of changes with the reorg that the council approved each one of those. So we'll go all the way back to the receiving the first therapeutic court, the grant, the appropriations from the state that came with the therapeutic court coordinator position fully funded. That originally was identified as a legal tech 1 in the original ask. And then that was amended to the therapeutic court coordinator position, which had, I don't have the bands in front of me, but a substantial increase to that level. And then subsequently, that position was reclassed to a support service specialist, which pushed that up another additional bands in the budget. And also the probation officer was put in the same band as well. So both those were added. And then other small tweaks and upgrades along the way. We had the bailiff 0.09 adjustment you see in your budget this year. And then also reclassing some legal tech 2s to legal tech seniors also came in front of council for approval. So that's your personnel, kind of personnel change, pretty substantial that you're seeing from 22 to 23.
And then supplies, services, and taxes. So we had a substantial, that was probably, maybe some of that was the IT upgrades, right?
Correct. You're going to see some things that originally originated in the court budget. Some things are in that budget. Some are in trial court improvement for the IT. They were grant related, so there was revenue and expenditures.
Okay.
So, and also with the therapeutic court program, we had some professional services costs identified to be able to offset what we received. I think it was about $217,000 or $221,000 in that first appropriation.
Okay. So we're way, $358,000 more roundabout in personnel, which we all have approved. Except for I think the proposed Is the proposed security in the 9.09? I know that includes the bailiff, but is that what the
No.
nine? Okay, so, okay. So this, does that up the FTEs to
Nope, the FTEs will be adjusted in this budget as well.
10.09? Or is
No,
it-
no.
okay,
So
thank
that's
you.
that's a contract. So you're being asked to approve a contract services. So that would increase professional services by 115,000.
Okay, so that's the category of 644.
Correct.
Okay, so by 83,000?
Your net
Round
overall
round.
to the bottom line budget for the court would be the 80 that I gave you. Remember some of that savings in personnel, which is up above, and then professional services.
Okay,
So the
so-
bottom line will be 80. What was the number I gave? Everybody has that faster than I do.
So they don't need 110, they need 80 something.
We
1,600.
correct.
Okay. One last question. I think what I haven't, I'd like to, in the future, some research. I'd like to be able to find out a little bit more from Ms. Monroe about the open bid process. That's all I have right now. Thank you.
Eric?
So I'm trying to understand what we have to decide tonight. So I think the debate about whether Seattle's best security service, we discussed that this year. So if the council is in agreement that we continue that on, I think, Mike, you're asking us to come up with $83,000 to pay for it.
Correct.
Okay, so the way I could see of doing this, just ask a couple questions. We have to come up with $83,000. The most flexible way in the budget is in our managing our FTE. We're not 100% full FTE, right? So there's savings there if you delay hiring. So the first question is, in the judges or the court's staff, or is there anyone that hasn't been hired yet?
So right now, currently, the position that's looking to be reclassed is vacant. So the assistant court administrator is vacant. If you approve the movement to be a legal tech 2, that position would be vacant.
Okay, so let me put it this way, and the judge can feel free to pipe in. It's her courts. Because if we can't find it within her department, then we have to find another position in the city, in my opinion, to delay the hiring process, or one or two, so you can balance the budget. Your only other alternative is to go to ending fund balance.
Correct.
So that's what's before the council. So Judge Flood, can you comment on what effect that would have on your department? Are you willing to do that, to delay the hiring, to offset the $83,000 we need to make up in the budget?
So when you say delay the hiring, you mean until January of 2024?
Well, this is a 24 budget, so I need to delay it $83,000 worth.
So I can give you the numbers right now. That position is fully funded with benefits and everything at 97,400. So to delay that to get that 83, you're probably delaying out till October, November to see that, recognize that savings.
So I think it would be very harmful for us to delay hiring for this position, as it is a clerk 2 position or legal technician 2 position. And the reason for the reclassification is because of the need in the clerk's positions versus an administrator's position. What I'm missing here in the discussion is the services support specialist position is fully funded by a grant. So that position that was approved by council is funded by the governor's funds. And that should offset the $83,000 as that salary is higher. So I'm perplexed as to why the conversation is finding the money when we already have in our grant and have, or in our budget, the $75,000 for the contract services. And so all that we're requesting for is the savings amount from the downgrade of the position. So when you're saying the $83,000, Mike, does that not consider the grant funds that we're receiving for the 0.5 position the grant funds that we're receiving for the services support position. So we have two positions that are fully grant funded of 1.5, as well as any time that I, as the judge, spend on the community court program is also reimbursed by the grant. And so just a little perplexed.
You want to answer that, Director Riley? So it sounds to me the question is, there's some amount of money that's coming out of general fund. There's some amount of money that's coming.
All the funds are coming out of general fund. The court is a recipient of the AOC funds that I think council was during previous discussion was briefed that they had received a second year tranche of funding for the therapeutic court coordinator position. So that is in the budget. That is effective through June 30th of 2024, and then it expires. So it's not perpetual funding at this point. Maybe it will become that. But the position that's in that budget is perpetual. The council's approved that, not contingent on grant funding. That is a general fund position that will continue as long as that position that the court sees fit to help have that. So that's why I can answer it. So it's funded temporarily with grant funds, correct?
Specific, that's the therapeutic
court.
Administrator.
The support, I'll call it what it is, support service specialist that was upgraded, but it is the therapeutic court for staffer.
So we have the support service specialist funded thanks to that grant, but we still, in the current budget, we do not have identified the 86,000 to fulfill the request of continuing.
So
the
just to keep
security
it fair,
services.
right? Yeah, I wanted to show what obviously the savings that the judge has recommended by downgrade, but there's a request for $115,000 to provide additional security in the budget. The net effect of that was 83,600 if we account for the savings already identified by the judge. Yeah.
I still have the floor.
One more
Let's make-
thing to add, Mr. President.
Yes, go ahead.
In addition, the county just sent an email confirming that they allotted $100,000 to the Bremerton Municipal Court as well, and ongoing funding to all county courts that have therapeutic court programs as well.
Is that 100,000 money that can be spent on anything, or that can only be spent on support service specialists and therapeutic grant?
So that's for the 2024 calendar year, from January to December. They'll be sending over the parameters of the contract, but it would cover the remainder of the year for the support services community court position, as well as the 0.5 position from the June 30th end date through the end of December. So that covers the full calendar year, and any documented staffing time that is spent working in the therapeutic court, they will also reimburse for.
So I guess not knowing the details, would that offset costs? Yeah.
So it's reimbursement for eligible costs for therapeutic court. So the judge can charge to it, but they have to have eligible costs. So right now, Judge, I'm not sure what so between the AOC grant we received, I think it was 180 something thousand. I can't remember. I don't have the exact number from you, but so that plus.
I'm sorry, I believe it's 189, either 187 or 189. I did provide that to Melinda.
Yeah, I know we have it. Yeah.
The parameters of that contract is a little bit more flexible, as if there's a need. That one includes training. That 1/10 of 1% also includes training and travel, because there are mandatory trainings that's in another part of, not sure if it's the services part of our budget, for the therapeutic court support services specialists to attend annually, as well as another staff person. So that covers the full cost of that training as well.
Okay, so in total, we have $289,000 available for reimbursement for eligible costs. So we have to identify those eligible costs. If for some reason we don't have $289,000, those dollars do not come into the general fund. They don't offset any additional other costs. So the court security, one question I have for the judge, is court security anywhere eligible within these grants? And we don't believe so.
Yes, any court security that is held and that any time that is spent on so on our Tuesday calendar is morning calendar is our community court calendar. So anytime we have security, any staff that participates in those meetings, all of that is a part of the reimbursements eligibility on the therapeutic court funds.
Yeah, I just saw that. Let me go back to Eric and then to Quinn. Yeah, so actually, yeah, Eric, do you want to, I mean, why don't you take the floor because I'll make sure we all understand that.
So the bottom line is that the judges indicated that there's savings through this grant that apparently just came to fruition or to our knowledge. And so I think it needs to be further understood because it sounds like this is a moot point. If the grant covers all these costs, then we don't have to come up with the savings. We're all good.
Yeah, the grants will cover the therapeutic court personnel that was in the budget without grants. So it does have personnel savings for at least through December 31st of 2024.
So we don't have an $83,000 delta before us and we can just move on.
Not if we have the 1/10 of 1% coming from the county that we were unaware of.
So, and Mike, when you, Director Mike, when you say unaware, the county just did their awards. It's been within the last 2, maybe 3 weeks. And the email just came out. I believe it still has to go to the commissioners, but the process is that they changed from years past where the courts that have existing therapeutic courts had to qualify. They have built in that the therapeutic courts, the existing courts that have been funded by the 1/10 of 1% tax was in essence receives priority of funds. From those priority of funds, the Bremerton Municipal Court was designated $100,000. We should have that information coming forth once they do their process. I believe, Mike, you're familiar with how they do their process, going to the city council, county commissioners, mixing city and county. So please forgive me. And I had some dental work done today, so my tongue's still a little heavy, oral surgery. So the award would, again, from Ms. Hannah at the county, said it would be again from January 1 of 2024 to December 31 of 2024 for that award of $100,000.
Okay, so unless I hear something to the contrary from our finance director, I think we should rely on what the judge gave us and we can move on from this.
Yeah, the only error to caution would be there's nearly $300,000 of revenue coming in. We're only going to receive that money for expenses that are eligible up to that. But yeah, if we've received $100,000 of 1/10 of 1%, that will come in to offset existing costs that would not have been, covered by a grant.
Sounds good. Before I go to Quinn, so then once we have the full, commissioners officially pass the grant and we have it, then do we need to do a?
We'll add this to mid-year. Yeah, this will go into mid-year adjustments. It's just coming in now. You'll see it in June.
Okay, that makes sense. Quinn?
Thanks. Yeah. So I just want to make sure that I'm following along correctly. So I apologize if this is redundant, but so the 83 or 86, I forget, the gap is for court security that we initially funded for this year. This is a continuation of that security. The gap, however, could be offset by this grant, which is met for therapeutic court. So the Tuesdays when therapeutic and community court is in session, you can bill to that grant. I guess the question that I have are, the last time I think you reported, Judge Flood, of how many people were in the therapeutic court, it was 5 people, or I'm just hoping, I'm wanting to make sure that the amount of people that go through that are able to be billed that amount, right? Like I have no idea how much per capita the billing can go, but I don't want to say, okay, we're going to bill 100,000 and we have 5 people and it's actually only 25 grand that we can bill.
So the way that the county is set up is they allocate what the anticipated number will be in the program, and they give a number to that, the number of individuals to be in that program for the year. Our program has only been going for 10 months as we announced the program in January of this year, but actually didn't start until February because of having bringing in participants. But it generally the planning process in the city of Tacoma is going through the same thing and establishing their therapeutic court at their municipal court level, 10 months of planning. So you have your planning stages, and the grants and the funding that comes through the state and through 0.1% anticipates that it's going to take time for your programs to grow. So there's come with that type of funding, also knowing that there's mandatory training, there's ORCA passes, so the participants receive ORCA cards. We also fund if they need a mental health exam that's not covered by insurance. So there's certain things that are built into the grant contracts that are related to funding for the individuals there, as well as the staffing. So they know that it takes staffing time and that's dedicated, and that time is specifically set aside for that program. And so I, over this last year, have been submitting reports to the county on the progress that we've been making. They ask for good things, what's good, what's bad. So they want to know everything. So those reports have been being submitted. I submitted one just a couple of weeks ago, and one of the praise reports that we gave is we have two participants, one who has been in for, I want to say, the last 4 or 5 months, has been promoted in his job twice and is hoping to become manager. We had another newer participant who had 2 job offers, went to some job fairs, is getting all of the things he needs to do, get together. But he was encouraged by the 2 job offers, but had a setback because they found out about his criminal history and they pulled the job offer. But he immediately now has 2 more interviews and job offers. So those are the things that we're providing information on the participants that we have in the program, and building the program to grow the number of participants, because there's a lot of overlap in individuals who are in Bremerton Municipal Court, who are also in Superior Court, who also may have cases in Longview and Cowlitz, down in Olympia, Thurston County. So all of that takes management and staff time to do so. And similar, while the AOC, the governor's funding that came through the governor's budget, that grant works a little bit different. We had staffing meetings where they go over how to chart your timing and staff time, and how to then submit your reports for them so that they can see, okay, the clerk spent 10% time on Monday. She spent another 20% of time, because I think one of the questions had been the staff person saying, well, they did other things other than community court. The grant does allow for that, and it's just a matter of, if we're seeing more of an adjustment, then they allow for us to adjust things at least up to 10% without approval. Anything more than 10%, we go back to them to approve any changes to those grant funds.
Yeah.
Say, for instance, and I'm sorry to be
I'm so
long.
sorry, Judge, and just keeping an eye on the clock. I think Councilmember Denny, did your
one last
question get
part of
answered about the enrollment number?
Yeah,
One
yeah.
last part is
Sorry, I didn't want
Okay.
to cut you off. That answered
Yeah.
my question. A
Okay.
quick follow-up. You said that you received an email, and then you also said that it has to go through the commissioner process. Just for my understanding,
Hannah.
like, is it already awarded, or are there still steps that need to be taken?
well, the contract and all of that stuff has to be done, and so that would require for signature and all of that, just like all the other.
Sure, but like, talking about a contract, have they made the offer and we're just going to
He
be the
sent an
accepted?
email with the offer, which is that's how I know it's $100,000.
Okay, so this money won't disappear. That's what I wanted to know. Okay, yeah, I think I'm with Eric then. If we have an $83,000 delta and we have this $100,000 grant, thanks for getting all that reporting, and I'm glad that we can offset it, and it doesn't look like we have to dip into general funds. So I'm good. Thanks.
And just to be sure for my own clarification, so there is one position that's funded by basically the AOC money. This is another position that's not funded, but with this grant coming in, that position would be funded, and that makes the budget work out for the security position.
Good question. I think it's more for the judge. Right now, we have one FTE that is tied to the therapeutic program. We had 0.5 that was tied to a specific grant, but it's really one FTE. So the community support specialist is the only full-time FTE that's in the therapeutic court program. Other members can bill to it as support the judge, other clerical staff. But right now, we have one position that is fully eligible for these funds.
So it's actually 1.5, the 0.5 Kirk's part-time position, which is up to 25 hours a week. It's also a part of the grant fund through the state that was upgraded. We didn't have that in the first year's grant funding, but we added it to our request for this year. But it was always a part of the 0.1% that it would be 1.5.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Council President.
Yes, go ahead.
We have been listening to figures and facts. And if we could have them provided in some written document, it's really difficult for me, at least, to retain all of this information.
Fair enough. Yeah. Okay. No, I think I got. All right. So it sounds like all right, on the table is no change to the budget. We'll look at a mid-year budget adjustment, but we need yeah. Well, once this grant's fully awarded, my only concern is if we get the funds, but then it doesn't pencil out. I guess we deal with that mid-year budget adjustment, and then we can, yeah.
Council President,
Okay.
I'm getting every other word that you're saying. I'm not getting everything.
Okay. I'm basically saying that if in the worst case scenario, we find out that this grant can't reimburse enough money to offset the costs of the security personnel, then a mid-year budget adjustment, we would have to either find another source of funds at that point or pull the contract. So we'll make sure that's clear. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
And just to clarify, I want to make sure I understand that while we only operate the therapeutic court part-time, like a day a week, the security for the court goes beyond that. And so I would think that only 20% of the, if the court's working 5 days a week and the therapeutic court is one, that 20% of that security could be billed to that grant if it's truly a therapeutic court grant. So we just need to, I think I at least need some clarification. I don't think that if we want to go ahead and authorize this, until mid-year, I'm not confident necessarily that it will be reimbursed because it is exclusive to the therapeutic court. But we can.
Yeah, Michael.
I just want to be clear on what we're talking about. So are we basically saying leave the budget as, meaning we're not putting this position in. We'll know more when we get this actual contract from the county, and then we can hire somebody in early 2024?
No.
No, what's being requested is to approve the contract for the additional $115,000 in the budget. Again, we won't work the numbers, just keep that what it is. Additional security is $115,000 for a contract for professional services. What's being discussed is there's a grant that we just were informed of $100,000 from the county. That is a reimbursement grant that has eligible costs for therapeutic court. It's only going to be eligible for therapeutic court. It's not eligible for standard over just general security. I don't know the court operation on the day they do therapeutic court, but my thought was there's other operations that court is providing as well. It's a portion of that day. It's not every day. It's not every Tuesday, and it's not eligible to be reimbursed against the rest of the court. So I don't know if we have enough costs to offset the $100,000 for court security. That is a reasonable comment. So
I guess my question is, have we solved anything yet?
I don't. Eric. Oh, sorry. He was. Yeah.
You have an
Well,
answer for
Jennifer?
me?
Yeah. Go for Jennifer. Then Eric.
Yes and no.
Mhm.
So where I thought we were at was that the judge had found capacity in the budget based on these new grants and that there was a lot of offsetting costs that she was detailing. So we didn't need to do anything. I would think that if she's got it under control with the additional funds she's found, even though some might go to therapeutic courts, some maybe offset into other categories. It sounds like she's got the capacity based on this new grant allocation that's going to fully fund additional personnel. Is that what that was going to fund additional personnel as well? There's 1.5 FTE.
It will
Right.
offset existing costs that are eligible for the grant.
Perfect. So it's going to offset costs. So it sounds like there's capacity, but I still want to leave space, as Councillor Fry is concerned about, for Judge Flood to come back to us if there are issues. I mean, mid-year. I don't think that we're going to have too many problems with capacity of a budget before mid-year, because she won't have spent all her money before the 6th, right? So I would love to see just, I guess come back at mid-year to discuss this, but to make sure that that we do cover this cost for her if it was needed then.
Right. So the whole point is to give Judge Flood the benefit of the doubt. She brought up this grant, which is new to the finance director. And accounting wise, Mike, you correct me if you can't do this. I'm not a governmental accounting expert. We need to come up with an $83,000 delta. So you increase her budget by $83,000 on the revenue side. And on the grant side, don't put the full amount of the grant of $100,000 because the grant is reimbursable. On the grant side, anticipated grants for 24, put down $83,000 because that's what you were told, and that's fine. And we pass the budget that way, and then we'll see how this all pans out come mid-year, like Councilmember Chamberlain said.
So quick
think
answer,
that's very clear.
correct.
Yeah.
That's why we'd have to put it in the budget.
I am as well. So worst case, it's like any department. If they accidentally overspend, then we got to deal with it. But okay. All right. Everyone on council good with that? 83.6 and 83.6. All right. Perfect. All right.
Clarification. Does this mean that, and maybe Director Rowley, this means that the assistant court administrative position is going away and the clerk 2 position is being created?
So yeah, I'll give you an answer. So on next Wednesday, when this council gets the full budget with all the discussion we just had and all those pieces are in there, when they approve that, yes, that's what is proposed right now. Next Wednesday, we'll know for sure when we get our 7-0 vote. Yes.
We'll see.
Thank you.
Perfect.
And-
Good deal.
Okay. Thank you so much.
So the position reclass and this 83.6 adjustment on both income and expenditure. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Thank
Excellent. All right. Thank you all. Thank you, Judge. All right. Any other, I think those are only 2 budget items left over from last week. So
That was it. So we will amend our documents and get the final proposal to you next Wednesday for a vote.
okay. Unless there's any other late breaking suggestions or, but
Yes.
Mm.
Do we have any final details on the programs, the partners, the timeline, the site selection? The consultant who is also appears to represent Sprung Structures. Do we have any more details in writing on the homeless shelter that we are budgeting like quite a bit of money for?
So I'll jump in there because I want to sum up. The council understanding was that while the ARPA funds are in the budget with the purpose of the shelter, there's basically we are still free to approve all those expenditures going forward. So we are not at this moment dedicating those funds to any specific contractor or any specific thing like that. They are just in the budget, ready to go, and those will be coming to us later on outside the budget process.
Okay.
Any other comments on this item on budget? Oh, I suppose so.
I have a $500,000 adjustment that I'd like council to consider. Could you put up the slides, please? I'm just kidding.
I hear.
Oh, goodness.
Just joking. Just joking, folks. I just wanted to see facial expressions. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I love you guys. Nothing. Appreciate
I
it.
thought you were going to suggest, let's just strike all the council member salaries since you're not going to need them. Yeah.
I'm cool with that. Yeah, we got it. Everybody.
By the
join
way,
us.
All
Quinn,
right.
you're fired.
I resigned. I resigned.
I have a
Go
I
for
do
it,
have
yeah.
a clarifying question just for the public and just to know, because we're gonna, I mean, it's not gonna just go away, but what's gonna happen to the 10K that we allocated for the bathrooms?
I don't know
It
if
just
you have
goes away. I mean, publicly, the idea is still gonna be there.
It's yeah. If I can answer real quickly, what was submitted in the council budget we didn't amend anything. So if it was in there, great. If not, it's in ending fund balance. It's still sitting as unappropriated.
So I don't think we have it rolling over. And I just want to make that public so that the funds are going to disappear right after into the next budget season.
Unappropriated.
Unappropriated. They don't disappear, but they don't go to the places where some of us want them to go. They don't actually. Exactly.
So if
They're
I
in the
can-
same
yeah.
damn place they were before.
If I can go to Attorney Fennell on this one, I believe it's still in the works to get that invoice. I think it's still being worked on is the long answer, right? Sorry, the short answer.
So I can actually answer. I've been working closely within my staff. So Linda Monroe's been working with the provider. We had multiple requests out, hadn't received anything. So Melinda reached out today. Sounds like we did receive something late afternoon today. Kylie, it's late. Has not had a chance to review it. So, but that's where we're at. We've been trying to seek that documentation, but came at the end of the day today.
So, thank you for the update. I know that there is a number of things that you were worried about, insurance undersigned, things like that. And hopefully they're able to get that going for you and answer all the questions that you have. Thank you for the update.
Stay tuned. So yeah, still to be hopefully spent. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. Good. All right. Anything else last second? All right. See none. I'm going to close, move on from that item.
All right. Thank you,
So we'll have, thank you, Mike. We'll have that updated budget for the vote at next week's meeting. Unless we have consent, but no. All right. That's a joke. All right. Last one is a real quick one for A9. It's a housekeeping item. So when I went to it's amendment of the meeting minutes of September 20th. So we approved them. When I went to sign it, I was scrolling through, and this was the meeting on the camping ordinance. And then I noticed there was an incorrect vote recorded for the motion to postpone that had Quinn voting for it, and it was recorded as voting against it. So the vote was wrong. So I just noticed that and I wanted to get it proper. And that's really it's really minor, but yeah. Okay, good. Perfect. So excellent. Folks are good with that and consent. It's just updating the record. All right.
Thanks for that.
Excellent. All right, general council business. Oh yeah, that's why we have social media guidelines on for B1 here. So I think unless that was unless that's not ready yet, and we can get an update.
Back for a fifth Wednesday in November.
No.
I'm not here.
Well, we can do this in 2024.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Sorry, online we can't hear anything. Is there a different mic?
I'm so sorry, the mic was not on for
fair enough.
Kylie.
Okay. I didn't say anything very important anyway. So these are your rules for yourselves. And one of the problems that I guess and this is just the big picture without getting into the nitty gritty. So this is a supplement to your rules and procedure because you're all independently elected officials and you can't really be, chastised except by each other. Does that make sense? I mean, like The concern with social media, though, is that you can subject the city to liability. We also had a little bit of an introduction to First Amendment recently and what that restrictions are and things like that. You're all familiar with the Public Records Act because you get training on that. You're also familiar with the OPMA. And so all of those issues can come into play when you're operating a council Facebook page. And this policy is a way to try to mitigate some of that liability and to give folks some a document you can refer to as to best practices. That being said, it is a document that's there to guide you, and there's at the end of the day, there's not much right there that we can do if you just decide you don't want to do it. And so, this would be something that you guys could look at and decide to do on your own. We've punted this every week, and I honestly kind of forgot that we were going to be doing it tonight. We've looked at it several times, and I'm happy to handle this however you would want. We could distribute it and then talk about it again later, or I could go through it now, or
Yeah, sounds good. So I think, Kylie and I had tagged up, it's been in my inbox, and it wasn't until like October until I got it back to you with comments, and then.
No, and that was the
Yeah.
thing is I think because it is kind of a discretionary
Mhm.
thing, you all talk to me when you have questions.
Yeah.
It certainly wasn't at the highest priority of the things on the list of council goals and stuff.
Yeah, so I think let's distribute it to council and then let people take a look. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh.
No. It's really it's an addendum to council rules and procedures. This is basically your own guidelines for your use of social media.
Best practice. Eric. Mhm.
Okay, you're all gonna hate me for saying this, but I'm fine with passing out the social media guidelines. I disagree that we can't be held accountable. I suggest that if the council agrees on whatever the social media guidelines are, and there's a blatant disregard by a certain council member for the adopted social media guidelines, then he or she could be held financially accountable if the city incurs any costs, and we can make that part of our policy.
Sure.
You need to have a stick. We don't know who's next on the council. We have to have a policy that's designed to be forward-looking, not taken into any of the personalities sitting at this table or on Zoom. And I think that would be the responsible thing to do for the taxpayers. So have a framework that's within OPMA and all that stuff that is acceptable. And if there's a minor infraction, I messed up or whatever, I totally understand that. But if there's blatant disregard and the city gets sued and we lose, they're on their own. It's called working outside your scope of employment or what you're allowed to do. And I say, hang that official, not literally, but through the pocketbook, let them hang. Sorry.
Sure. And so I can look at we have a provision in our defense and indemnification code about employees or council members basically taking action counter to the city's interest, and that you don't get defended or indemnified. And so you would be personally liable for that kind of stuff. So I can look at whether something like that. And I will say for OPMA violations, you are personally, like, it's actually in the state law that we those are like fines. I'll look at that, and we can look at the policy. And I can distribute it, maybe
Perfect.
just with an email explanation, and then we can talk about it some more.
That sounds good. Because I'll just tell, I know one thing you and I talked about was one draft had you as the enforcer of, and that didn't seem quite right.
Some city did that. Yeah. They had basically a procedure. So they contemplated that the social media accounts would sort of be handed out like car keys to elected officials. So you would get like the district page for your district, and there is some practical reasons that make sense, so that then people could join the Facebook page for their district, and as the council members came and went, and they wouldn't have to join up with new ones. And then there's other people who see social media followings as almost like a commodity and want it to be with them as an elected. So if they went on to something different, like being the mayor, or they went on to being a, state rep, that they take their followers with them. And so there's just different schools of thought on that. And so the thought was, if you were given the keys to the city, a page basically that was a city page that had been, set up with IT. Some city did it where the city attorney, if they, and it was like in consultation with the clerk, it was a pretty formal process, could basically take away your keys. I don't really want to do that. Frankly, I think it's it puts me in a weird spot. And I think it's better to think about, educating council members. My hope would be that there would never be anyone on the council that just completely disregards, the harm that they could cause, to the city. So that education would be the best way to go. But yeah, I'll distribute it and then we can talk about it some more.
Perfect. And just Quinn, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I was just gonna agree with Eric. It's kind of one of the reasons I'm for qualified immunity reform. I think it's really important that people are held personally liable if they're acting outside of certain policies or sets. But my recommendation was going to be to distribute it post November 15th, so that my successor has a chance to weigh in on it and have a seat at the table to discuss, since I'm on the way out.
That sounds good. We'll send it out and then we can, the next study session isn't until December 8th anyway. So if we hand it out, we can get it on the December 8th study session, make sure everyone's good, and then it can pass on December 15th.
Because Kylie's about to step in and say this, the election is certified on November 28th. So determining who the successor is not, possible until after the 28th. I myself am most happy to look upon this in December.
Yeah, so this would
Yeah, there's not another study session
right
now and then.
until December 8th. So perfect. Okay, let's do that. We'll distribute it and put it on the December 8th study session. Excellent. All right, next B2, Denise Fry, public safety summary.
Yes, I hope that Vice President Chamberlain, though, is somewhere around, because I'd like her to report out on a portion of this. Had a good check-in with the chief around how the enforcement of the camping ordinance has been going. He gave me a few things that I want to share with you. No arrests, there were 40 people. Many of the tents had been abandoned and were being used as trash receptacles. So they were really just full of trash. So a lot of trash was removed by Public Works. Vice President Chamberlain, I mentioned that I'd like you to talk about public safety around the Public Works record keeping of the items and so forth, but let me just get through the little list of things. So 37 of those 40 were placed that evening. Navigators and the Heart team were working together. I'm sure that Rock the Dock and others were down there as well, and you can follow up with that. Rock the Block, sorry. That's Michael's deal. Yeah. One thing that I wanted to mention that I want to follow up with the chief on, and I haven't had an opportunity to, and that is, he did say there needs to be more documentation. He used that word, and I'm not sure if that's his concern about this. The navigator has a role, law enforcement has a role. Is he identifying another role that is, I know navigation well enough to know that they also need to document where they sent who and what happened and all of that. I need to check back in to see what's being done around that and what that need. When a police chief says that there's a need, I want to listen to it. I should have asked for more clarity then. I really should have, but I'll get back to him for that. And then before I go into the drug prosecutions, I wanted you to talk about the interaction just around storage and that kind of thing,
Well,
and
yeah.
anything else.
Sure, I have just a couple things. So And Director Nucky, I think you can probably help us answer. So I just in the internal policy that was passed on to me, at the very end of it was a property log, and I just wanted to ensure that there was some sort of way to log individuals' property. I know after 6 and the capacity for storage. I wanted to kind of check in with you about that.
And it just.
This is reports, but there was an email.
Yeah, there was an email from Director Nucky. Thank you for that this
Okay.
afternoon.
Thank you.
Yeah, it
Got it.
really does outline
Perfect.
everything.
So no need, shouldn't be Q&A, but another thing that I wanted to kind of bring up too is that I learned that there was a difference between the posting of a 72-hour notice for cleaning an encampment versus citing someone with a misdemeanor for camping. So somebody could still be cited, taken away from their property, and they're still responsible for having their property picked up. In the same way, an Attorney Fennell, likened it to, well, if you're arrested on a, DUI, for instance, then you have to figure out how to take care of your car. It's going to get impounded. There's a whole nother set of definitions, and I forwarded to City Council, but I copied Councilor Dennehy and Councilor Fry about what the internal policy was, but I did give it to City Council, so I don't think that it's made its way to everybody yet, but it, okay, then we should make sure to get that forwarded to you so you can see what the internal policy actually is. That's all I have. Does that kind of cover it? Thank you.
I needed you to cover. And then Gary Hersey was there and talked about the prosecutions on the drug laws. So did some data, 3 months worth. So it's just a short snapshot. However, 52 cases of possession or public use, front loaded really at the beginning when that ordinance went into effect. There was more right then. His feeling was maybe words getting out, They are projecting probably what it was pre legalization. That it'll get to around 200 cases a year of prosecution. The one thing that I did want to bring up to everybody's attention, you've probably read in other parts of the country that really going through a problem with public defender accessibility. There's a lack of public defenders, that it's happening all over the place, and it's really impacting obviously the process, because we have to make sure that they're given an adequate defense. So Kylie was really helpful getting my head at least around that, reaching out to the district attorney's office, and they don't have capacity around this either. So it's a challenge now. I don't see it getting better. And it's yet something else that's adding more challenges to our local judicial.
Where that everyone who's getting charged is getting a public defender. We have a primary public defense contract. We have backup public defense contract and a backup to the backup public defense contract. And those are administered through our finance department. Melinda Monroe is in charge of those as well. But we get ahead of the problem in that we don't charge cases unless we know there's capacity. And so some places you might hear about that get out ahead of it and they charge too many cases and they don't realize that they don't have public defenders. But it is the criminal justice system, everything has to work together. And so public defenders are a necessity, of course. And so if I can't put a case into the system unless a lawyer's going to be there to help a person through. And so we have to pay attention to that.
That's it.
Nope, excellent report. Really appreciate having a timely meeting with everything going on. Good deal. Are any other regional or committee boards? It's a transit.
It was budget week. Actually, the last of 2 weeks at Kitsap Transit. So I guess I just want to point out, like, our budget for our whole city is 227 million. The estimated excess of unrestricted reserve at Kitsap Transit is 52 million. Just thought I'd toss that out there. Big. Gigantic. I mean, that's their unrestricted reserve. Things that are going to affect people in Bremerton. I've been agitating for bus shelters for people who are waiting at bus stops because we spend tens of millions on taking care of the buses, making sure they're okay, and taking care of everybody else. So this will finally become a line item. It's finally become enough of an expense, and I would like council's authorization to say, yes, the whole council would really like there to be bus stop shelters in Bremerton. If you want, I can bring this as an agenda item at some future point, but just me saying, hey, Kitsap Transit, I think this would be good, isn't going to cut it. So I'm going to come to you guys with an agenda item for that.
And that's for next year's budget.
No, just to keep pursuing it with Kitsap Transit,
Okay.
water wearing away a
Gotcha.
stone.
Perfect.
The governor's office has invited Kitsap Transit to submit an application for a $4 million grant, I believe, for an electric hydrofoil design and prototype, which would ease our situation. And there's a lot of interest in not the revival of the mosquito fleet, but in having more like, boats to Silverdale, boats to get around. Just making sure. Done.
Excellent. All right. All right, let's wrap this up. I'm gonna. Oh my. All right. We'll save that for a future meeting. All right, I'm gonna skip general council business unless anybody truly has something burning, but no. Okay, with that, and announce the next council meetings on Wednesday, November 15th, beginning at 5:30 p.m. in the meeting chambers with a remote option available by Zoom. Look forward to seeing y'all then. All right, meeting is adjourned.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.